All right, we are live. This is Soundbooth Theater Live, and these are the cold reads of Chrysalis 7. I always forget what the name of Chrysalis 7 is. Let's see. Where'd it go? Damn it, I just had it. Chrysalis 7, Fated Antagonist. Duh. These are part 3 of the cold reads of Chrysalis 7, Fated Antagonist. Thank you guys for coming. I hope you are having a good day. Let's see. Is my connection okay? Let me know in the comments if you're seeing crappy connection. But yeah, happy to be back. We're starting on chapter 24 today. We had Rhino Z on part 2, which was yesterday, and we started all the way at 9 o'clock Central, so 9 o'clock a.m. Central, and yeah, it was midnight for him because Rhino Z is an Aussie. So we are ready to get back into it. Anthony and company have started their assault on Orpule, even though like not quite on the town, but they're kind of circling the town, looking for stray demons to kill that are in the Orpule army, because they're not allowed to actually assault the town until like, was it 7 days after their ceasefire or something, since Anthony messed up their plans to invade. Anyway, so we're about to get started on that. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind everybody to go to soundbooth.app and to pick up The Grinding by Matt Dinneman. If you haven't already, The Grinding is now available. It's just $12.99. And it is 8 hours of amazing, disgusting, horrifying fun. Matt Dinneman is, at his core, I think, a horror writer, and this particular audiobook will show you what that means. It's not a LitRPG for those of you who are strict LitRPG consumers, but if you're willing to go outside the genre and try something a little more pure, high octane, it's just like a distilled, a very, very, very violent and high, fast-paced story, and it's also a bit traumatic. I'm absolutely in love with it. I'm so glad that we got to narrate it and get it out there. So you guys should take a look at it. Soundbooth.app. Search for The Grinding by Matt Dinneman, and you'll find it there. For any of you who've already listened to it, please leave a review. Please share it with people. You know, our Soundbooth app right now doesn't have a system like Audible does for ranking and for getting our reach out there. So we're depending on the people who love this platform and who love this company to help spread the word about the things that we're doing. And I think The Grinding's an easy sell for a lot of people, especially if they're Matt Dinneman fans. So secondly, I want to remind you all about LitRPG Con. It's coming. It's less than 3 weeks away, July 18th through 20th. In Denver, Colorado, at the Grand Hyatt, we are hosting the very first convention dedicated to LitRPG as a genre, and we are going to have a giant list of the biggest names in the genre when it comes to creators. We're talking authors and narrators. We have Alaron Kong, Dakota Kraut, James Hunter, Matt Dinneman, of course, myself, Rhino Z, the author of Chrysalis, is going to be there. He's coming in all the way from Australia. Shirtaloon would have been here this year, but he had that health issue earlier this year. I think you guys know about it. He may still show up like as a face on a screen. We've talked to Heath Miller maybe about hosting that for you guys. Let's see, everybody from the Soundbooth Theater crew, Annie Ellicott, Justin Thomas James, Andy Parsonow's going to be there, Travis Baldry's going to be there. This is an amazing, epic event. And it's not just hanging out with creators, it's meeting all the other fans of LitRPG who just love the genre and who want to also meet their favorite creators. We have board games that are going to be happening all through the afternoons. We have nighttime entertainment live music and variety show happening on Friday night. We have Imminent Peril being played Saturday night to an audience. And also we have panels all day from the morning all the way through the rest of the day. So if you guys are curious, if you want to make friends in the genre, if you want to bring people to the genre who have been resisting it up until now, but they're your friends and you want to infect them, please bring them to LitRPGCon. Go to litrpgcon.com and you find all the information that you need. I believe that the hotel itself is already sold out as far as rooms, but there's plenty of hotels around it, and admission's only $100. So please join us. Yeah. Oh boy. Man, I'm so disappointed in my Wi-Fi. It's telling me that it's having problems. I don't know if you guys are seeing those problems or not. Okay, why did this happen? I hate it when zooms happen for no reason on scripts. Okay, here we go. Starting with chapter 24. Here goes. Chapter 24. Amassing. Oh, wait. This is a third person. This is a third person chapter. Sorry, guys. Chapter 24. Amassing. The colony was like a boulder rolling down a hill. The moment the wave ended, they'd exploded outward, and their momentum had only grown as time passed. The more they expanded, the more nests they created, the easier it was for them to continue the process. More queens allowed more eggs to be laid, which grew the workforce, which meant more nests could be constructed. Only months ago, the colony, then confined to a single nest, now boasted 6 satellite nests with 4 new main nests under construction. Kilometer after kilometer of tunnel was now the claimed territory of the ants, along with numerous expanses which they harvested vociferously, using every resource on hand to sate the unending hunger of the... Kilometer after kilometer of tunnel was now the claimed territory of the ants, along with numerous expanses which they harvested vociferously, using every resource on hand to sate the unending hunger of the brood. This relentless growth made it inevitable that they would eventually encroach on the interests of another power, but Coolant hoped that day was still far off. The destruction left behind by Garralosh meant the first stratum and surface... The destruction left behind by Garralosh meant the first stratum and surface were clear of any major influence for a great distance around their main nest. The frontier kingdoms no longer existed, and thus all of that empty dungeon had become ripe for conquest. Likewise, the lands to the south were abandoned wilds, deemed too bothersome to settle by the established empires of the surface. Already, the colony had cleared swathes of land, establishing farms, roads, and prepared sites for villages and nests. The second stratum was more crowded, since the colony knew that the Empire of Stone simmered to their east, still smarting from their earlier defeat. It made no sense to expand in that direction, as it would only shorten the time needed for the Golgari to threaten their interests. The third stratum was likely to be even more contested. Likely, it wouldn't be just one neighbor to object to the growth of the colony so close to their doorstep, but 2 or more. The Golgari almost certainly maintained a presence on this stratum, rich with resources and hunting grounds as it was. But who else might they run into? This was a question that the strategists and thinkers of the colony obsessed over daily. Coolant had been amongst the first to Coolant had been amongst the first to consider this. Coolant had been amongst the first to consider that she and her siblings knew precious little about the factions and kingdoms of the world, potential allies and enemies, all of them. Wait. Sorry about that, guys. Just need to turn off my ringer. I'll be right back. It was just not selected, that's all. I selected it, it's fine. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I think I turned off my ringer now. Yes, ringer off now. All right. Okay, so I don't understand this sentence. Coolant had been amongst the first to consider that she and her siblings knew precious little about the factions and kingdoms of the world, potential allies and enemies, all of them. Okay, I get it. All right, never mind. Coolant had been amongst the first to consider that she and her siblings knew precious little about the factions and kingdoms of the world, potential allies and enemies, all of them. This was essential knowledge that could guide their actions to the best outcomes possible. How could they afford to offend? Who did they need to avoid? Who could they afford to offend? Who did they need to avoid? It was for this reason that the mages began to spearhead an effort to question and learn from as many of the people who came under their rule as possible. The refugees of Renewal and the people of Rylay were all untapped sources of intelligence that could add the detail and color that was so lacking in their picture of this world. Let's try that again, without running out of breath. The refugees of Renewal and the people of Rylay were all untapped sources of intelligence that could... The refugees of Renewal and the people of Rylay were all untapped sources of intelligence that could add the detail and color that was so lacking in their picture of this world. Today, the council member had come to the intelligence gathering station. Today, the council member had come to the intelligence gathering station the colony had established in the underground city where willing volunteers were interviewed and... Today, the council member had come to the intelligence gathering station the colony had established in the underground city where willing volunteers were interviewed... Fucking hell. Today, the council member had come to the intelligence gathering station for the Today, the council member had come to the intelligence gathering station the colony had established in the underground city where willing volunteers were interviewed and their information collated. Today, fucking hell. Today, the council member had come to the intelligence gathering station the colony had established in the underground city where willing volunteers were interviewed and their information collated. Fuck! Today, the council member had come to the intelligence gathering station the colony had established in the underground city where willing volunteers were interviewed. Today, the council member had come to the intelligence gathering station the colony had established in the underground city where willing volunteers were interviewed and their information... It's one of these sentences, guys. Today, the council member had come to the intelligence gathering station the colony had established in the underground city, where willing volunteers were interviewed and their information collated. There we go.
How goes the day's proceedings, accountant?
The rather idiosyncratic ant looked up at Coolant through her ridiculous and oversized glasses.
Very well. Very well. The merchants have proven to be a wealth of information once we understood what they wanted. They wanted to be paid. How did you know? They always want to be paid. I suppose that's true, isn't it? So, what did we end up giving to them? Nothing. The faithful barricaded their homes and stores until they volunteered to talk to us.
Coolant slapped her forehead with a front leg. The humans could be very enthusiastic when it came to helping the colony, sometimes more than was necessary.
Make sure we give the merchants something for their time. They only recently calmed down, and we don't need them getting riled up again.
The longer the colony was in charge of Riley, the more they had learned running roughshod over everyone all the time wasn't always the best decision. Sure, if they chose, they could dedicate the resources to locking down any whisper of dissent in the city, but why bother? They had much more important things to do. Better that the systems they put in place and oversight they installed keep things running smoothly. This way, the ant presence within the city itself could be kept to a minimum.
So, what have we learned?
Accountant pushed her glasses up with one leg. Accountant pushed her glasses up with one leg, a habit that caused a flash of irritation to run through the elder mage. Why the heck did she need glasses anyway? A useless non-monster fixation. In truth, the glasses did, in fact, serve a purpose. Accountant had them made in order to provide magnification, since she spent such an inordinate amount of time perusing human documents in her role. The glasses themselves were a work of art, hundreds of individual lenses aligned perfectly to her compound eyes to provide the necessary focus to read the tiny writing. The best part, she didn't have to use any mutations or evolutionary energy to achieve the effect.
Our understanding of the trade routes and goods exchanged with the Karamodo to the north have grown extensively. The sand lizards are a fascinating society with a relationship that borders on symbiotic with their attendants. But are they likely to fight us? Oh, yes, absolutely. They are very territorial according to the people we've spoken to. Obviously, we don't have much by way of verifiable history here, but from what we've been told, the Dungeon Society of the Karamodo is amongst the oldest on Pangaea. Interesting. What of the Brathians? Ah, the water people, yes. Apparently there is a small population of them within the lake next to the former kingdom of Lyria, though their manor strongholds are far from here. Their presence in the third stratum is weak, for fairly obvious reasons, though we have learned they have a significant presence in the fourth. Any ideas on why? It's said to be lucrative. What about these so-called old kingdoms? They are far from us right now, much further north, beyond the lands claimed by the Karamodo. I'm sure we will run into them eventually, but so far we haven't interacted with them in any meaningful capacity. Have the people here had much to do with them?
Accountant hesitated.
It would appear not. It is, difficult, as I understand, for people who live on the frontier to visit the old kingdoms. What about to our west?
Coolant asked.
From what I understand, there is some conflict to be had in that direction that remains unresolved. Between who? The Karamodo and the Mother Tree. The Bruanchi, indeed.
Coolant thought that over for a moment. There likely wasn't much they could do to interfere in that mess at this time, but in a few months, when the colony extended their reach deeper into the third stratum and began to extract resources from it, there likely wasn't much they could do to interfere in that mess at this time, but in a few months, when the colony extended their reach deeper into the third stratum and began to extract resources from it, the tree had reached out to assist the colony in their time of need, and she would make a powerful ally. Boom, that's a chapter. Done. Done did. All right, we got 74 people watching. Thanks for coming, guys. One second, guys. Okay. All right, let's see. Is this a third-person chapter? Okay, more Tolly. All right, more third person. Chapter 25. Assault on Orpule, Part 1. Part 1. Okay, so this is... let's see. Let me see if we have... the release calendar. I will let you guys know once I hear back from the team. Because we did schedule it. Okay, so this is one of those bits where it's Tolly, the magazine, the travel blogger, basically, based on Dame Edna. So this is actually Annie's part, but I'm going to go ahead and speed narrate it because I just have fun doing that. And just so you guys kind of know what's going on, if you can keep up. Here goes. I've seen many things, dear readers, been to many wild, wonderful, and dangerous places, but even I felt a moment of trepidation as we passed between the legs of a giant carved statue of an ant and the hard stone closed around us. My two guards and I had now left the world of the sun behind us and delved within the nest of the colony. I have to admit that this is the first time in my long life that I've willingly plunged within a nest of monsters, though my apprehension was somewhat mollified by the smiling guide at my side and the children running before me.
Was that statue another depiction of the Great One? I asked my guide, Amelia, mainly to distract from my feelings of discomfort. The young woman chuckled a little before replying, although there are many, many depictions of the Great One, that statue is an exception. Oh, really? Yes, that was a memorial placed in memory of Grant, one of the first 20 ants of the colony to be raised by the Great One, and who sacrificed her life against Garralosh, helping to bring about the monster's defeat. Sounds like quite a story. Yes, I was a young girl then, but I can still remember the sounds of battle from the shelter where the children were kept. When we finally learned that it was over, I almost couldn't believe it was possible that this beast who had destroyed kingdoms was defeated by these ants. We fell into silence as we continued to walk, the path sloping downward at a steady pace before it turned to the left and began to spiral. We'd gone down perhaps 100 meters before the tunnel opened into a wonderfully pleasant, welcoming chamber with human attendants, comfortable chairs, thick woven rugs on the floor, and core enchanted lighting along the ceiling. This seems oddly luxurious, I murmured. The colony is quite Spartan when it comes to their own accommodations. They usually don't have rooms of their own, but sleep in designated chambers with hundreds of others. When it comes to their guests, however, they are extremely generous. Watch. So saying, she stepped to one of the human attendants, dressed in much the same way as my guide, and entered into a brief whispered conversation. When Amelia returned to me, the other woman had left the room and then returned a few moments later, holding a tray laden with a teapot, cups, and delightful little cakes. Such a sight warmed my heart, dear readers. You can imagine how much I had missed my tea, and let me tell you that the ceramic work on the cups and pot was just spectacular. Ornate little flourishes abounded, and when I leaned close I could see the flowers painted on the sides sported small ants foraging amongst the petals. We were invited to sit in the comfortable chairs and enjoy our snacks, which I did. I was halfway through the delicious cake when a realization struck me. I turned to Amelia to see her watching me with a wide grin. All of it was made by the ants, she confirmed for me. Even the tea. Especially the tea.
Excerpt from Chapter 7 of Travelling Tolly in the Lands of the Colony, published in the monthly Pangera Gazette. Victor looked out at the transformed city of Orpule with satisfaction. Even now, the plate bristled with ants at work, carvers and soldiers doing the heavy lifting and putting the finishing touches on the new defensive works. Small forts in the shape of anthills were now dotted throughout the city, giving the ants a fallback position and safe firing platform. The pillar above the city now sported similar protected hollows. The pillar above the city now sported similar protected hollows formed by bonding stone to the harder material of the pillar itself. Any approach to the city from the air would be subject to a bombardment of spells and acid that would put even the most powerful Tier 6 mines to the test. Any approach to the city from the air would be subject to a bombardment of spells and acid that would put even the most powerful. Any approach to the city from the air would be subject to a bombardment of spells and acid that would put even the most powerful Tier 6 mines to the test. Although they lacked their human allies and the potent buffs they provided, it was hoped that these home-ground advantages would be enough to utilize their sheer weight of numbers to the fullest extent, holding off any demonic assault whilst their own offensive reaped the rewards in Orpule. Tens of thousands of members of the colony remained within the city, dug into position and ready to fight at a moment's notice. When the enemy came, they would be made to understand the folly of challenging the colony.
How go the preparations?
Advant asked, crawling up into the central compound where the general, Victor, had made herself at home.
Just about done. The last few days have been hectic, but I think we're ready. There's been plenty of work to go around, the soldier agreed. Not that I was worried we wouldn't get it done. No, everyone knows how much is riding on this. With the eldest personally involved, everyone is more than prepared to give their all. Are you going to be all right here? Will the contingencies be enough to handle a Tier 7 if it appears?
Victor shrugged her antennae.
You cannot engage in conflict that is totally without risk. We've done everything we can to minimize it, but an element of chance will always persist. With the information we have at hand, we have made the best decisions we could. It should be enough. Well, I wish you all the best. If all goes well, I'll see you when the column returns with word of our victory. Yes, shouldn't it be leaving right about now? The departure has begun. I just thought I'd check in with you before I went on my way. Why, thank you, sister. That warms my heart. You're very welcome.
The two enjoyed a moment of silence as they looked out over the vast emptiness that surrounded the city.
All right, I'll be on my way,
Advant said.
Tell the eldest we have things looked after on this end. Make sure they do their job properly. I will.
So saying, the large soldier moved swiftly, dashing away and into the city to reach... So saying, the large soldier moved swiftly, dashing away and into the city to... So saying, the large soldier moved swiftly, dashing away and into the city to reach the edge of the plate. Before long, she'd reached the outside and began the long, arduous climb down the pillar along with a vast... Before long, she'd reached the outside and began the long, arduous climb down the pillar along with a vast horde of her siblings. From a distance, it almost appeared as if the pillar were alive, covered as it was in a writhing carpet of enormous ant monsters. When they reached the floor, they spread out into one enormous column of hundreds of meters wide that trailed through the plains of Leng. Every ant stepped in unison, the combined sound ringing throughout the stratum like a fearsome bell or a giant knocking on the world's door. Even the ever-present demon larvae rattled by the vibrations that shivered through the solid stone beneath them, moved far afield from the mighty column, revealing wide swathes of the floor to light for the first time in centuries. The ants were on the march. That was a very short chapter. Next. Moving on, guys. What's up, Flibster? Corgi Buttbread is here. Amanda Pepper. Knit Knack Knock. Here it is. That's just posts. Should be 3. All right, looks like pre-order is going up August 19. And release should be September 2nd for Chrysalis 6. All right, back to Anthony.
Chapter 26.
Assault on Orpule, Part 2.
It was a tired and bedraggled group that I led out of the tunnels after a few days of hunting. Trying to track down the groups of demons that escaped from the city proved to be a massive pain in the business district, much as I expected it to. Nevertheless, when we finally made our way to the plains outside of Orpule, around which Vibrant and her gang were still running laps, we returned triumphant. 7 out of 10 groups are successfully annihilated. It was rough going, especially toward the end when everyone, other than me, was tired, but we persevered. The destruction of these groups will surely cause some pain for the city, which will soon become part of the colony's territory. The destruction of these groups will surely cause some pain for the city, which will soon become part of the colony's territory. The destruction of these groups will surely cause some pain for the city, which will soon become part of the colony's territory. Brilliant was instrumental in bringing about this outcome. Her ability to tap into the residual memory of the dungeon itself was the only way we could track the wayward demons. As a side benefit, we've gotten close to pushing the hatchling to Tier 5 in what must surely be the most rapid ascent of any ant in the history of the colony. Another 10 levels and she'll have it, once the battle for the city is done. Getting her to evolve is going to be my highest priority. When she reaches that stage, she'll be decently strong, and I won't have to worry about her evaporating in a puff of smoke when some demon looks at her the wrong way.
Hey, Senior!
Vibrant greets us enthusiastically when she loops around the city and back to our side.
Nice to see you again. How'd things go? Good, I hope. I'm sure they were good. Hello, Crine. Are you ready for more tag? I sure am.
The machine gun of pheromones into my face is as unpleasant as ever, and it's almost a relief to encourage the eldritch horror riding on my back to go have some fun with her friend whilst the rest of us take stock. We managed to track down and annihilate the 6th and 7th groups who deployed... We managed to track down and annihilate the 6th and 7th groups who deployed south. It wasn't easy, especially since the trail had gotten so cold, but we managed it in the nick of time.
Another 3 groups were sent out since you left, which means there are 6 still out there.
Dang it. Well, that means the demons remaining in the city are even fewer, I suppose. Keep our claws crossed that the... Keep our claws crossed that the defense will manage to hold back at Rockloo. Do you suspect any Tier 7s left the city?
We can't confirm, but we believe that it's likely. Some of the groups had fluctuating mana readings, which is almost always a sign that concealment is taking place.
There's no way they sent out more than one, right?
We don't think so. The mages in our group expect that it was a decoy effort. We don't think so. The mages in our group expect that it was a decoy effort to make it harder for us to work out which disc carried the Tier 7.
Sneaky.
Anthony, can I go to sleep yet?
Ah, Sarah, don't sneak up on me like that.
I'm bigger than you. How on earth can I possibly sneak? That's not important. Sleep is important. Where are we resting?
Ah, it's over that way. I'll be back later. I think the group is in dire need of a nap, I say to Amelia. Oh, was it Amelia that I've been talking to this whole time? Yeah. It hasn't all been running laps for Vibrant and her crew. It hasn't all been running laps for Vibrant and her crew. She has all castes as members in her posse, and the carvers have been busy laying the groundwork for the coming invasion. 2 kilometres from the base of the pillar that supports Orpule are where the staging grounds have begun to take shape. 2 kilometres from the base of the pillar that supports Orpule are where the staging grounds have begun to take shape, including a convenient rest area that 2 kilometres from the base of the pillar that supports Orpule are where the staging grounds have begun to take shape, including a convenient rest area that Sarah, Tiny, Invidia, Brilliant and Owl can pile into for some well-deserved snooze time. After days without rest, constantly roaming through the dangerous lava-filled tunnels, I can't really blame them for being low on energy. With my 20 bodyguards and the huge numbers of ants teeming throughout this area of the Stratum, I've generally been... With my 20 bodyguards and the huge number of ants teeming throughout this area of the Stratum, I've generally been... With my 20 bodyguards and the huge numbers of... With my 20 bodyguards and the huge numbers of ants teeming through this area of the Stratum, I've generally been fine. With my 20 bodyguards and the huge numbers of ants teeming throughout this area of the Stratum, I've generally been fine. Neither Demon City ever left my range throughout our time on the prowl, thanks to the range-extending mutations of my reforged vestibule. Speaking of mutating, I should get some more of that done. While I have the chance. I've managed to put away enough biomass to pay for another few upgrades, and the fight tomorrow promises to be a tough one. I look up at the city of Orpule. Bigger than Rockloo, and not by a little bit, the Demon City is made up of several layers rather than just one. Bigger than Rockloo, and not by a little bit, the Demon City is made up of several layers rather than just the one. I don't know how they've done it, but several of the giant plates have extended out of the pillar, allowing for multiple levels of other buildings. I don't know how they've done it, but several of the giant plates have extended out of the pillar, allowing for multiple levels of buildings. Other than the primary level, the others are still much smaller, clearly in the process. Other than the primary level, the others are still much smaller, clearly in the process of expanding to reach their full size. I really do have to find out how they've enhanced the pillar to grow more levels. We could do with more space in Rockloo, since that's likely to be the primary staging ground for the colony on this stratum. With the others settled down to rest, I make myself comfortable and prepare to mutate. Before I can get started, the faint tickling that I've been feeling through the vestibule for the last little while starts ramping up. After a few seconds, I realise what it is. The unified determination of the invasion force is welling up inside of me. It seems their emotions are rising now that they're getting close to Orpule, enough that it almost... It seems their emotions are rising now that they're getting close to Orpule, enough that it almost drives me to my feet and sends me charging to the base of the pillar on my own. I restrain myself with some effort. Tens of thousands of ants, all with a singular, unified purpose, are enough. Tens of thousands of ants, all with a singular, unified purpose, are enough to have a strong effect on me, even if I guard against it. I'll need to be careful over the next few days. I crawl to a higher vantage point, hoping to see the arriving force. It takes a little while. My eyes still aren't amazing at a long distance such as this, but eventually they become more than a blur on the horizon. A huge column of ants marches forward, indomitable and unyielding. Before they are anywhere near me, I can already feel the vibrations of their steps through the ground, almost louder than the whispered will of my siblings pulsing in my veins. We aren't holding much back for this assault. Now that we've gained a foothold on this level, it's imperative we hold it. The opportunities and experience we can harvest from this stratum are the key to unlocking more Tier 6 ants. We haven't even begun to explore what rare resources we may be able to tap. Rather than take a backward step, we've decided to use this conflict with Brixen to expand our footprint and aggressively seize more land than we can... Rather than take a backward step, we've decided to use this conflict with Brixen to expand our footprint and aggressively seize more land that we can then consolidate. Once we've secured our gains, it won't end there. The colony is forever growing with an The colony is forever growing with an inexhaustible demand for biomass and cores. We will push and push until something decides to push back. That's when the real fun starts.
And I forgot to be sharing the Ableton with you guys. Boom. And it always just does that for some reason. All right. Is there any fix for the Soundbooth app? Sendokan asks. I don't know what your problem is, so I don't know what can be fixed. You can always email help@soundbooth.app and tell them what your issue is. I have not heard of anyone not being able to use it. Malin the Educator. Have we encountered a Malin character before? Sounds familiar. Let's see. Not in book 5. Let's try book 4. Come on. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there's a Malin. All right. If anybody can contradict me there, please do. But I think Malin is a relatively new character.
Chapter 27. Assault on Orpule, Part 3. Fire iron, magma crystals, ash shards, Firestone. Along with cores of the demons themselves, these make up just a few of the precious resources that make the third stratum such a hotbed of conflict. For as long as the powers of the world have known of the demon lair, they have fought over it.
Territory secured here has always been precious, especially in those areas where the mana flows thick and the treasures are abundant. Due to a number of factors, such as the difficulty of coexistence with the demons and managing the fallout of their endless battles, securing a safe holding is a constant drain on Due to a number of factors, such as the difficulty of coexistence with the demons and managing the fallout of their endless battles, securing a safe holding is a constant drain on whoever should attempt to do so. The borders between the various powers are thus in a constant state of flux, rich mining grounds changing hands on a weekly basis, though the rewards are well worth it. Fire iron. The precious ore can be found within the stone between layers, or indeed in molten pools mixed with lava. Filled to the brim with fire-attuned mana, the weapons forged from this material can become so hot there are reports of them melting the armor of the foes they were used on while they were... Filled to the brim with fire-attuned mana, the weapons forged from this material can become so hot there are reports of them melting the armor of the foes they were used on while there were men inside it. When properly utilized, it's even possible to forge a suit that would allow a being to dive into molten rock and come out unscathed. Magma crystals are far rarer. An infused form of quartz, these crystals are so dense with concentrated mana that they can spew forth a flow of lava for hours at a time without needing to be recharged. It was the Legionum Abyssi who were the first to learn how to safely carve slivers off the gems and apply them to the tips of arrows, a trick that might have been better had it not ever... It was the Legionum Abyssi who were the first to learn how to... It was the Legionum Abyssi who were the first to learn how to safely carve slivers off the gems and apply them to the tips of arrows, a trick that might have been better had it never been learned at all. Ash shards, a grim material that skirts the edges of the forbidden. The power of ash is a breath away from that of disintegration and annihilation. Capable of dissolving a person whole, it is by far the deadliest substance that can be mined in this stratum. Firestone is the one building material that allows a permanent structure to be formed in the land of fire and ash. Without it, putting one brick on top of another and expecting it to be there the next day would be all but impossible. Resistant to heat and seemingly immune to the degrading power of ash, even at the deeper layers where it comes more potent. Resistant to heat and seemingly immune to the degrading power of ash, even at the deeper layers where it becomes more potent, Firestone is the bedrock of civilized existence within the world of demons. Excerpt from The Third Stratum, a Primer, by Malin the Educator.
As the vast army of the colony flowed into the area around Orpule. They set to work like a well-oiled machine. Soldiers peeled off the line and started to set up patrols and a perimeter even as the carvers began construction of a vast project. It was fascinating to watch it happen. Sitting up on my rock, it almost reminds me of looking at Sitting up on my rock, it almost reminds me of looking at time-lapse videos of ants at work. A flurry of activity, dirt getting moved around with thousands of little bodies rushing here and there. The main difference in this instance, of course, is that every being I see is a fully sapient creature. There's no wasted movement, no back and forth, just a clean execution of a previously agreed-on plan that was carefully considered. In 10 minutes, tons of rock have been shifted, clearing the ground for what is to come. The vast field The vast field of plains around the pillar that supports the ceiling so far above our heads is effectively surrounded, teams of ants having formed a living wall around the city. Still, the vast concentration of the army remains here, close to me, feverishly building in a long line that extends from my position all the way to the base of the pillar. 50 minutes later, even the demons should be able to work out what is happening. The beginnings of a vast rampart. The beginnings of a vast rampart are taking shape, the likes of which this stratum may have never seen before. Several kilometers long, it will reach from the ground all the way up to the lip of the plate on which the demon city sits. A truly ludicrous undertaking, but one the colony will attempt to execute even so. Huge trails of soldiers and scouts have formed in all directions, hauling hundreds of tons of stone every minute back to the construction site where mages and carvers break it down and fuse it into the ever-growing ramp. It is glorious. It is mad. And it's amazing all at once. This is the power of the colony when they bring their numbers to bear. This is what 40,000 of us can do when we work together in harmony. In a year, there might be 1 million of us, or even more. What wonders will we be able to accomplish at that time? I can't help but get shivers as I think about it. But now's not the time for sitting around on my backside daydreaming. Eventually, the city is going to start retaliating, firing spells and dropping rocks on us as we build. At that time, I need to be on the front lines, ready for action, which means I need to be mutating and resting my mind to ensure peak performance when the battle is at its peak. No longer willing to stuff around and watch others work. Think of my reputation! I rush down into the resting chamber in which my group is already slumbering and prepare to mutate. This mainly involves making sure that nobody can see me, and I'll be protected during each time. With this job done, it's time to weigh my gains. How many points do I have to work with? 547. Not bad for a week's work, especially considering the fact I've been sharing the food with a host of tier 6s. And a 7. It's enough for me to take 3 of my organs. Almost 4 of them, from plus 25 to plus 30. Which of the lucky body parts will it be? Another short one.
All right, before I keep going, just want to remind everybody to go pick up The Grinding on the Soundbooth app. That's soundbooth.app. Search for The Grinding. It is by Matt Dinneman. It is a pure work of horror. It's narrated by myself and Annie Ellicott, and it is a great story. It's about 8 hours long, just $12.99 to pick it up. Please do. Please go check it out, guys. It's been on the app for not even a week now. Already some reviews are coming in. If you've already listened to it, please also review. Please share it with people. Tell them what is up. Tell them how good it is, or tell them that you didn't like it. Whatever you want to do, just please go out there and talk about it. We need more people on the platform, and we need more people to know that we have good shit there, or at least stuff worth discussing. Soundbooth.app. Go pick up The Grinding.
Chapter 28. Assault on Orpule, Part 4. Mutating. The subtle joy of making some selections within your mind and then having your body literally transform into a better and more capable version of itself. Not only is it mega convenient, it's super addictive. The feeling of constant improvement is just fantastic. So, it's with a giddy joy in my heart that I start perusing the menus and looking over my status, trying to decide which of my many organs and body parts needs to be upgraded next. Obviously, it's an important decision.
Obviously, it's an important decision. We have a big fight coming up, and multiple Tier 7 opponents will be present. We have a big fight coming up, and multiple Tier 7 opponents will be present, so I'll need to be at my combat peak. Then again, what entails the combat peak? My carapace and mandibles are upgraded, that's fantastic, obviously, but what comes next in terms of offensive and defensive priority? Is it my legs? Speed is always good, and they harden up a little when I mutate them, which reduces the chances of going without limbs, which has been a recurring issue. No wonder the way ants fight each other on Earth was to pull the legs off. It's a low blow, but effective. The weakness was the legs all along. Therefore, legs is an option. My regenerative plating is another strong contender. Tier 7 demons are going to be able to put some serious hurt on my carapace, I've no doubt. So being able to absorb some of that impact and regrow my diamond covering that much... Tier 7 demons are going to be able to put some serious hurt on my carapace, I've no doubt, so being able to absorb some of that impact and regrow my diamond covering that much faster would be a boon. Although there's the mental edge. I could upgrade my brains rather substantially with this biomass, or improve the coordination cortex and give each of my brains a small boost that way. There's always the gravitational mana. There's always the gravitational mana gland as well, now that I think about it. A big old gravity bomb is what got me out of the last fight against a Tier 7 alive, and if I'm being honest, it's going to be my trump card going into this one as well. Having more gravity mana on hand to throw about sure couldn't hurt. Of course, improving my nervous system would also be a wise investment. I took my antennae all the way to plus 30 last time round, so it would make a lot of sense to go ahead and improve this now so I can keep up with what my future sense is telling me. Gah! So many decisions! So many decisions! Alright, I only get 3, so I might as well spread the love out rather than concentrate it in one place. I'll improve my coordination cortex. That'll give each of my brains a small, yet noticeable boost and help me on the magical side of things. I'll also improve the gravitational mana gland. Each improvement gives greater capacity, faster regeneration, and so on. But lately, I've been mutating it to prove... Damn it. Each improvement gives greater capacity, faster regeneration, and so on, but lately I've been mutating it to pre-condense the mana for me, and that has been a serious help in making the gravity bomb faster to cast. It might only be doing 10% of the work I need, but it makes a huge difference in the heat of the moment. Finally, I'll improve the inner carapace plating. As good as my reflexes are, especially when combined with my future sense, Grokis showed me I can't always rely on being able to dodge, even against foes as ponderous as he was. I fully expect to take some hits in this battle, and by improving the plating, I'm giving myself the best possible chance to survive. In terms of the individual mutations, it isn't that hard to pick out what I want from the exhaustive lists. As I stated, the condensing effect I've been adding to my gravitational mana gland has been great. It's actually an idea I stole from Tiny, believe it or not. He added this effect to both of his lightning mana glands a long time ago, and it was only much more recently that I decided to follow suit. The carapace plating has a mix of mutations so far, aimed at improving its ability to absorb forceful The carapace plating has a mix of mutations so far, aimed at improving its ability to absorb forceful blows as well as healing the carapace above. I think I'll look at emphasizing the former rather than the latter. The healing effect I get from the plating is good, but that isn't why I purchased the organ. I purchased it to help shore up my defense against solid, concussive blows. Making sure it's working at maximum capacity in that respect is going to be the best choice right now. In fact, when I next evolve, I might look at reforging the carapace plating along with the carapace. Rather than add the healing effect, I could go all in. Rather than add the healing effect, I could go all in on bulking up my defense and add an additional organ or element to repair damage to the carapace on the fly. Even those diamond bugs I was offered last time. I'm not especially comfortable with having little parasites inside my carapace, but if they can strengthen and repair it, then it'll be a worthy trade. Anything to make the diamond shine brighter! With all of that done, my upgrades look like this. Braced healing inner carapace plating, plus 25, to fortified healing inner carapace plating, plus 30. Unyielding coordination cortex, plus 25, to steadfast coordination cortex, plus 30. Compressing unending gravity magic gland, plus 25, to forceful unending gravity magic gland, plus 30. And those 3 upgrades are going to cost me just 420 biomass! Holy moly! Things are getting expensive at this tier. I seriously need to prioritise mutating my stomach the next time around. I need to squeeze all the biomass I can out of the prey I get, because I need literally thousands of points to get myself to fully upgraded. This is likely the downside of adding too many different body parts and organs. But it'll be fine. As long as I spend enough time, I'll eventually get to max. Considering I need to reach level 160 to evolve again, there's almost no chance I'm reaching that level cap before I finish my mutations. The sheer volume of experience required is just mind-boggling, although knocking down a tier 7 opponent is worth quite a few levels. Hopefully I'll get the chance again tomorrow. With my selections confirmed, it's time to put my head down and confirm my choices. I may as well let my mind get some rest while I'm whilst I'm at it. For a battle of this size, I need to be as fresh as I can possibly get. When I feel the itch start to roll over me, I almost welcome it. Then it erupts from inside my brain and I immediately hate it again. Damn itch, why must you torment me? All right. Chapter 29. Chapter 29. Assault on Orpule, Part 4. Part 5? Part 5. The defensive strategy of the colony is a brutal one. Though they shy away from attrition warfare in principle, they have been known to engage in it when the grim calculus of war is sufficiently in their favour. If you are losing 10 soldiers for every ant you kill, then that isn't a fight that will go well for you. However, committing meat to the grinder is often the only avenue that the damned insects will leave open for you. The records are filled with example after example of the superiority of their defensive The records are filled with example after example of the superiority of their defensive construction. The generals have a saying, "Leave 3 ants on a rock for 2 days and you'll find an impregnable fortress when you get back." The folly of rushing to engage the fortifications of the ants has been proven time and time again. Great. Oh my God. Their mages are well-trained and strong, adaptable and with excellent coordination. The spell barrages that would-be attackers are forced to endure are harrowing. If you manage to neutralize the mages with your own, which is no easy task, then you still have the literal rain of acid to deal with. Their artillery ants are capable of firing the stuff a kilometre, spraying wide areas with a mist that will strip flesh from bones if given the chance. Suppose you manage to overcome that obstacle. You advance into their fortifications. Suppose you manage to overcome that obstacle, you advance into their fortifications, likely an anthill, since that's their favoured configuration. And then what? A bloody grind of a battle where you are forced to assault layer after layer of walls, traps, and pitfalls. That's what. The ground will open up behind you to vomit out hundreds of ravenous monsters. Rivers of acid will explode out of nowhere, bursting from concealed storage chambers and flowing down the hill, literally taking the feet out from under you. It's a nightmare. But it's not impossible. With sufficient numbers, grit, and clever tactics, you can overcome this hurdle. But what have you won? The answer is nothing. You have conquered the outside of the anthill, which is nothing. All the things they want to defend are inside the hill, which means the true test is yet to come. Fighting the ants within the tunnels of their own fortress hills is some of the most brutal fighting I've ever seen in my 40-year career. I've witnessed veteran soldiers come out of those tunnels as shivering wrecks, completely broken from the experience. It's dark, it's cramped, and at any time, from any direction, a veritable horde of terrifying monsters could burst through the walls. Fighting the ants outside is hard enough, but within the narrow confines of their nests, they turn into another beast entirely. My official recommendation for assaulting ant fortifications is this. Don't. Establish ranged superiority and throw stuff at it until it crumbles into dust, then burn the dust until nothing remains but a puddle of molten rock. It takes a long time, requires a massive concentration of valuable assets, but it's the only way that works. Excerpt from Report and Theory on Assaulting Ant Strongholds by Robert Stronghand.
What's up, Sean McGeehan?
When I snap out of torpor, I find the rest of my group has already abandoned me, leaving me inside the small resting chamber all on my lonesome. It's fine though, my feelings aren't hurt. I'm tougher than this. Damn it. I need a diamond covering for my heart. I head out of the chamber to find the colony has been anything but lazy whilst I was taking a tactical nap. Construction on the ramp continues at a vicious pace, and already the mighty edifice rises high into the burning air of the third stratum. Seriously, there must be tens of thousands of tons of stone. Seriously, there must be tens of thousands of tons of stone used to make this thing, if not more. It's bonkers. Still, the colony is doing it. A constant stream of construction materials flows into the site, but not as many as before. As I take a look around, I can see that a large concentration of ants has been assembled toward the tip of the ramp and that some form of conflict is taking place there. It's already started. I need to get moving! Flexing my legs a little, I quickly dash forward, scanning around to find the mana signatures of my crew. Sarah? Tiny? Crynos? and Vidya? Where are you guys? At first, I can't spot them. Then, as I run up the base of the ramp and head toward the emerging end of the massive thing, I recognize them up ahead. They're already at work. Guys, why didn't you wait for me?
Oh, hi, Anthony.
Sarah greets me.
We thought it would be best to let you sleep. You've been up for a long time, after all.
But don't let the fighting start without me. I need to be there to help out. But don't let the fighting start without me. I need to be here to help out.
It's fine. There isn't all that much going on just yet. If things were getting too crazy, we would have definitely made sure you were around.
She's right. When I make it to the end When I make it to the end to find all of my pets, Sarah and Owl, gathered there, I realize that... When I make it to the end to find all of my pets, Sarah and Owl, gathered there, I realize that what I was seeing was only the initial salvos of what is sure to become a hectic battle. Right now, the distance between the edge of the plate and the ramp is still hundreds of meters, too far for most monsters to harm each other, except, of course, the spell slingers. Already, a fiery exchange is taking place as the demons throw literal fire, and a host of ant mages, along with Finvidia and Owl, fire back whilst protecting the horde of workers continuing to complete the ramp. From Sarah's point of view, not much is happening since she can't do anything to contribute, but there's plenty that I can do. Time to put my incredible shielding skills to good use. I've been training for this moment. Full of confidence, I rush to the front and begin to weave together some defensive barriers, putting all of my mental constructs to the purpose. Thanks to the upgraded coordination cortex, each of my brains has received an additional boost to their individual working capacity, along with their ability to cooperate, giving each construct that extra bit of oomph. Yes! Come to life, my shields! Defend the colony as they work to bring us to the peak! Except my shields are shattered almost immediately. Damn it! I still haven't grinded enough on the defensive magic. My priority has been on force magic over the last week, and I haven't had enough time to rank it up that far. From his position, hovering just over my right shoulder, Invidia continues to pump out enormous barriers with almost contemptuous ease. His silent judgment burns me like a hot needle. You've been practicing this for ages. Give me a break! His eye looks down on me.
Your skills... I do not need them.
Oof. I'm still helping anyway! So my barriers aren't that great, but I can keep spinning them and throw some ordnance up at the demons firing on us at the same time. Keeping the opponents on the back foot will reduce the heat on our workers, and hopefully I'll have enough time to rank up my barrier magic.
Chapter 30. Assault on Orpule, Part 6.
What's up, Justin Thomas James? Just saw him in the chat. What's up, man? Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Sarah paced back and forth on the ramp as she strove to keep her bubbling anger from rising up. Though she put on a brave face, she was still scared. Scared of this battle, scared of what the colony was attempting to achieve, scared of being so high up on a ramp with no rails, and scared of herself. The battle against the Golgari back at the nest taught her a lot about herself and the kind of person she'd been when she first arrived in the dungeon and the kind of person she was now. Most importantly, she'd come to acknowledge that her fear was the source of her anger, not a byproduct of it. Her rage was a reaction to how scared and hesitant she had been when she'd arrived in this world as a little cub, newly formed in the first stratum and forced to fight for her survival from the very first minute of her creation. It was strange how those memories remained so fresh. Even now, decades later, she could still remember the terror she'd experienced during her first fight. A rat toad had found her not 5 minutes after spawning, as she'd still been stumbling about the tunnel trying to understand how to move with her new legs, shocked and confused about what had happened to her and desperate to understand where she was. They were ambush predators, rat toads, and this one had been holding onto the roof waiting for prey to wander under it, which she'd foolishly done. If it hadn't been for her tough hide, she might have been done for then and there. As it was, she lost a chunk out of her shoulder before she knew she was under attack. The sudden pain flooded her system with adrenaline as she lashed out in a panic. Luck, more than anything else, kept her alive through that battle, and the fear that bloomed in her heart had never left her, even to this day. I hate that. And it never would. She was coming to accept that now, after so long. She wasn't like Anthony, who'd embraced his new life with an innocent glee she could never hope to replicate. She didn't belong here, in this place, in this world, but she was trapped with no way out. All she could do was learn to control her fear, to experience it without letting it consume her. Once she achieved that, once she had it within her grasp, then she would also control the rage. It was there, inside her now, churning away in a constant feedback loop that kept it moving, kept it growing. Rather than shy away, she leaned into it, allowed herself to feel it, to acknowledge it, and in that way slow it down without letting it die. It wasn't time yet. Soon, but not yet. The air around her boiled with explosions, ice, curses, and lightning as the colony and demons waged a magic battle, even as thousands of ants continued to labor on the ramp, extending it now only with earth magic, manipulating the stone with their minds from a distance rather than risk precious carvers stepping into the firing line. Longest sentence ever. The air around her boiled with explosions, ice, curses, and lightning as the colony and demons waged a magic battle, even as thousands of ants continued to labor on the ramp, extending it now only with earth magic, manipulating the stone with their minds from a distance rather than risk precious carvers stepping into the firing line where they couldn't protect themselves. There was nothing she could do to help at this point, nothing at all. So she paced and focused inside.
Come and get it, you morons. Eat fireball. Wait, fireballs probably suck against these guys. Eat ice explosion. Ha!
A constant stream of chatter came from Anthony, who appeared to be having the time of his life running back and forth on every... It's supposed to be Anthony.
Come and get it! Come and get it, you morons! Eat fireball! Wait, fireballs probably suck against these guys. Eat ice explosion! Ha!
Go. A constant stream of chatter came from Anthony, who appeared to be having the time of his life running back and forth on the very edge of the ramp, stepping forward every time it grew as much as a centimetre and flinging spells directly into the faces of the demons. He never seemed to run out of energy, probably a mutation or organ, not that she was going to pry. She had other things to focus on. Every minute that passed, the firestorm of magic grew more intense, spiking the fear within Sarah ever higher as she managed its rise. Every minute that passed, the firestorm of magic grew more intense, spiking the fear within Sarah ever higher as she managed its rise. She wasn't even aware of it as she paced back and forth, but a low growl had begun to resonate in her throat, vibrating through the air and growing in volume all the time. As the ramp crept closer and closer to the lip of the plate, her rage grew ever more intense, a red filter falling over... As the ramp crept closer and closer to the lip of the plate, her rage grew ever... As the ramp crept closer and closer to the lip of the plate, her rage grew ever more intense, a red filter falling over her vision as the Asura within began to beat with the thumping rhythm of her anger. It was a familiar feeling, one she'd lived in fear of for so long she almost couldn't remember a time that she didn't. Only now, she did not shun it. She sought instead to ride it. Her growl rose and rose, and she rose with it, riding high on a wave of boiling rage that sought to drive her consciousness away from her body, and she allowed it to buffet her without relinquishing control. The moment the ramp finally drew close enough, she felt herself roar, unleashing her bottled emotions in one air-shattering bellow before she dashed, rushing toward the edge and leaping off. It was a bizarre sensation, as if she were a passenger within her own body, but unlike the previous times this had happened, she wasn't banished to a little corner of her own mind, a locked box where she hid herself away. Instead, it was as if she clung to the back of a bucking bull, except that the bull was also her. With a mighty crash, she landed on the plate right in the face of a huge horde of demons who turned their ire on her. She was lashed with flame and fangs, but the pain only strengthened her. The Asura bear was the engine, and rage was the fuel it burned. The more they attacked, the more she swelled with power until her fangs and paws leaked red energy that intimidated all around her. A thud she heard only distantly told her that Tiny had joined her, leaping across the gap with his wings to aid him and landing amongst the demons around her with a devastating blow. With the same space heat brought her, she leaped forward, claws flashing, jaws snapping, and the enemies around her rose to meet her challenge. She was amongst it then, battling hard against the monsters, the growl in her throat having grown to a never-ending roar, and at that point it became too hard to hold on. At last, the bull had its way, and she was flung off, falling into the dim corner that she knew so well. Even as her control slipped, she still felt a momentary surge of triumph. She had held on longer than ever before, and with a little luck, this time she might just come back faster as well. If she kept trying, perhaps the day would come when she was finally the one in command of herself.
Chapter done. All right. I'm killing it today, guys. Just speeding through.
Chapter 31. Assault on Orpule, Part 7. Sloane looked out over the seemingly endless open space of the third stratum with trepidation in her heart. Everything that could be done had been done. The city had been rebuilt from the ground up, its defenses strengthened, and over 10,000 valiant ants. The city had been rebuilt from the ground up, its defenses strengthened, and over 10,000 valiant ants were in position to act as the garrison and fend off any assault. An assault they knew would be coming. She just hoped it would prove to be enough. Excuse me. The colony was still untested against the demons. One surprise attack was not enough to determine how well they matched up, and without the humans along to boost them, there was every chance things would go much worse for her and her siblings in this battle than the last one. The Tier 7s were also a great concern. Despite all of their efforts, the colony still had far too few Tier 6 members. The power gap only continued to grow the further up the tiers a monster went, which meant this deficiency would be hard to overcome in the short term. If one Tier 7 came to this city, then they would most likely be able to hold. If two came, things might get difficult. Measures were in place, and she could only hope they proved sufficient. Scouts bristled all over the city, both up and down the column, as well as a good distance away on the plains, hiding amongst the boundless throng of demon larvae. A relay of mages, able to pass messages between each other at the speed of thought, would likely be the way the colony first received word of the impending attack. Until that moment came, she could do nothing but wait. When time ticked over, and the 7th day arrived, a soundless disk of pure magic glided out from its hiding place amongst the mountainous outcroppings of rock several kilometers from the city. Then another, and another rose to join it, each of them bristling with demons. Word raced through the messenger network before a minute had passed, and just like that, the defenders of Orpule Word raced through the messenger network before a minute had passed, and just like that, the defenders of Orpule shifted to an active footing, with ants settling into their prepared positions and readying themselves for the battle to come. Seemingly without effort, the demons glided through the air, rising until each of their discs had reached equal height with the plate of the city before they halted, waiting for each of them to be in position. There were 5 discs in all, one for each of the hunting parties that the eldest failed to find, with an unknown number of Tier 7 demons among them. Brixen was not content to merely defend her own territory. She sought to control and dominate, and that could not be achieved from a purely defensive position. Her aim was the same as the colony's, to win it all, to take new territory whilst protecting that which she already owned. One way or another, one of them would get what they wanted. Once all of the discs were in place, they began to glide forward in unison, approaching the city at an accelerating pace. Thousands of eyes watched. Hidden behind crenellations and concealed within folds of stone on the pillar, the ants watched and prepared. The demons clearly knew what was coming. Well before they were within range, a host of shields and barriers began to form around each of the discs, protection enough to stop a mighty barrage indeed. But perhaps not enough to stop 10,000 ants, all hell-bent on protecting what was theirs.
Release! 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 Release!
Came the call from the pheromone glands of hundreds of generals all around the city. In one unified moment, from thousands of individuals came a deluge of acid and magic that no demon could possibly have foreseen. The plate and pillar blossomed like a flower as the trails of fireballs, ice, lava, and every other element homed in on the discs. The demons didn't attempt to dodge, they just accelerated, putting all their effort into shields to protect themselves. It was never going to be enough. The colony's barrage didn't stop, it only grew more intense the closer the discs came to the plate. Demons dropped from every disc and every side of the city, but still they came. When they finally made contact with the city, it wasn't the graceful and controlled landing they probably imagined. They crashed, ramming into the stone ramparts around the outside of Orpule like battering rams. The demons of Orpule were thrown from their perches and rolled in the rubble before they leapt to their feet and began the assault. Sloane was everywhere, rushing through the command center like a mad thing, listening to every report, communicating with every scout.
Where are they?
She muttered to herself as the fighting heated up all around the city.
How many did they send?
The moment the demons set foot on the plate, they were assaulted on all sides by coordinated teams of ants who subjected them to a constant run of attacks. The colony didn't seek to destroy their opponents immediately, wary of biting off more than they could chew. Instead, they opted to wear their opponents down, and in so doing, force their Tier 7 demons to reveal themselves. Instead, they opted to wear their opponents down, and in so doing, force the Tier 7 demons to reveal themselves. It was a lone mage, hidden in a fold of stone on the ground, who detected it first. At Tier 5, she'd done all she could to improve her ability to sense and manipulate mana outside of her body, hoping to specialize in defensive magic and protect her sisters, just like how the little winged guardians protected the eldest. Straining with every fibre of her mind, she reached out and tried to pierce the veil the demons maintained even now, warping and twisting the mana that emitted from their cores. Then she broke through, for just a fleeting instant, but what she sensed was enough to send a ripple running through every segment of her carapace.
Tier 7!
She hollered to the general behind her over a mind bridge.
2 of them!
The moment Sloane received word, she turned to the waiting scout by the entrance of the command hill.
2 of them on the west side! Deploy countermeasures!
In a flash, the scout was gone, her message delivered with a speed that Vibrant would approve of. Moments later, a deep rumbling began to be felt through the feet of every ant and rocklu, as if the plate itself was shaking. The vibrations only grew in intensity as the moments passed, until every member of the colony, even on the pillar, could feel it. It had taken a huge amount of effort to raise this force to the 6th tier. Now they could only hope it would be worth it.
Please don't mess this up, you idiot,
Sloane begged of the empty air.
I forget who this We Seek is. Let me check the... I need to check the other scripts for We Seek. Not in book 5. This is 4 and 5. I thought I kind of remember this a little bit, but maybe not. Just going to check book 6 one more time. Nope. Oh, here it is. The Immortals. That's it.
We seek! We seek! We seek! We seek!
All right. There it is. Gosh, what time is it? I don't think I've done an ad read in a little bit. 1:38. Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that LitRPG Con is coming. It's July 18th through 20th. And it is in Denver, Colorado at the Grand Hyatt Hotel. Check out litrpgcon.com to get tickets. They're only about $100. We still have a few to get rid of, so please come on down and hang out with us for the weekend. LitRPG Con is the very first LitRPG convention, the very first convention dedicated to the genre itself, and we're excited to get all of you people together to meet each other and to have some fun with the creators of everything that you guys love so much. If you check the website, litrpgcon.com, you will find a very long list of guests and panelists who you will recognize. There's, of course, Matt Dinneman. There's myself. There's everybody else from Soundbooth Theater. There's Travis Baldry, Andrea Parsnow, Aileron Kong, Dakota Kraut, James Hunter, Michael Chatfield, Jez Kajiao, Benjamin Curry, Kiri?
Benjamin Curie. Shirtaloon was gonna come, but he got sick earlier this year. But so he still might come like digitally. He might still show up in a video. So don't delay. Go check out litrpgcon.com. If you're trying to indoctrinate more of your friends into the genre, this is the way to do it. Bring them over to Denver, Colorado, so that we can hang out with them and they'll discover just how much fun this community is. All right. Here it is. Okay, back to Anthony. Let me finish this off. Chapter 32. Assault on Orpule, Part 7. The Immortals thundered through the wide streets of Rockloo, a tidal wave of chitin and steel that seemed to rattle the foundations of the world itself as they ran. How many tons massed in their combined charge? Who could say? Certainly not Leroy, who ran deliriously at the head of their flying wedge formation.
This is it, my sisters!
She roared, blasting her pheromones wide.
We run in the darkness hour! We run to bring glory! Immortal no more! Why do you run? We seek! We seek! We seek! Seek no longer! Lay down your search! We have been tormented by a question, and I tell you that the answer is here and now! This is the moment! This is our time!
Within each and every carapace-covered abdomen, the hearts of Leroy and her loyal adherents beat with wild abandon. Before them lay the mightiest foes the colony has ever faced. Dreadful in their power, fell in their purpose, the demons would slaughter thousands should they be left unchallenged. Each and every one of the Immortals knew they would pay any price to prevent that from happening. Although, to tell the truth, they yearned to pay that price. Surely, now they would fall. Ah, crap. Surely, now they would fall. Though this select group had been raised to the 6th tier, they were not as mighty as the eldest, did not possess their wisdom or strength, so how could they hope to prevail against such dreadful odds? They wouldn't! Couldn't! They wouldn't. They couldn't. But with their final breath, they would drag their enemies down into the abyss with them, saving their family and freeing themselves. Okay, wait a minute. I thought I saw an eye in here. No, this is supposed to be in third person. Damn. That's annoying. Oh well. Chapter 32. Chapter 32. Assault on Orpule. Part 7. The Immortals thundered through the wide streets of Rockloo, a tidal wave of chitin and steel that seemed to rattle the foundations of the world itself as they ran. How many tons massed in their combined charge? Who could say? Certainly not Leroy, who ran deliriously at the head of their flying wedge formation. Damn it. Certainly not Leroy, who ran deliriously at the head of their flying wedge formation. she roared, blasting her pheromones wide. Within each and every carapace-covered abdomen, the hearts of Leroy and her loyal adherents beat with wild abandon. Before them lay the mightiest foes the colony had ever faced. Dreadful in their power, fell in their purpose, the demons would slaughter thousands should they be left unchallenged. Each and every one of the Immortals knew they would pay any price to prevent that from happening. Although, to tell the truth, they yearned to pay that price. Surely, now they would fall. Though this select group had been raised to the 6th tier, they were not as mighty as the eldest, did not possess their wisdom or strength, so how could they hope to prevail against such dreadful odds? They wouldn't. They couldn't. But with their final breath, they would drag their enemies down into the abyss with them, saving their family and freeing themselves. Despite their weight, the ground was swiftly eaten up by their furious charge. The prospect of imminent death spurred them on. The prospect of imminent death spurred them on to run faster than they ever had before, charge more desperately than could have been previously imagined. The prospect of imminent death spurred them on to run faster than they ever had before, charge more desperately than could have been. The prospect of imminent death spurred them on to run faster than they ever had before, charge more desperately than could have been Fuck. Bye, Justin. The prospect of imminent death spurred them on to run faster than they ever had before, charge more desperately than could have been previously. Fucking hell, why is that so hard to say? Could have been previously. The prospect of imminent death spurred them on to run faster than they ever had before, charge more desperately than could have been previously imagined. Soon, the target of their wrath was in sight. The demons did not appear overly special when compared to the others around them, not much larger, nor much more powerful than the rest of their group, but the evidence provided by their sister... Someone's outside making noise. The demons did not appear overly special when compared to the others around them, not much larger, nor much more powerful than the rest of their group, but the evidence provided by their sister was all the Immortals needed to commit themselves whole... Fuck! The demons did not appear overly special when compared to the others around them, not much larger, nor much more powerful than the rest of their group, but the evidence provided by their sister was all the Immortals needed to commit themselves wholly to the fight. They would not take a backward step.
Brace!
Leroy roared, and the ants to her left and right lunged against her, interlocking their armor. Leroy roared, and the ants to her left and right lunged against her, interlocking their armor with hers. The motion was repeated down the line, and in the lead... The motion was repeated down the line, and in the lead position, Leroy was overcome by the sensation that their wills had truly become unified. Were she to lift her legs from the ground, the unstoppable momentum and strength of her siblings would still carry her forward to glory.
Remember the inner fire, and bring them down with you!
The group of demons, only 6 in number, realized their deception had failed the moment the wave of furious insects appeared. Amongst them, the 2 most powerful had sneered because despite the forceful charge of the insects, they felt no fear. No longer constrained, they allowed their power to swell, blanketing the area with an aura of violence and decay that sent the rest of the ants skittering back. The demons believed this was a sign of fear, whereas in reality, the colony was simply making room for what was about to take place. Emboldened by the retreat of the weak who had fled at the first sign of their power, the 2 Tier 7 demons stepped forward boldly, willing to take the charge of the Immortals. Emboldened by the retreat of the weak who fled at the first sign of their power, the two Tier 7 demons stepped forward boldly, willing to take the charge of the Immortals head-on. A curious decision. When the two sides met, the sound of screeching metal and shattering stones sent the hairs on Sloane's antennae dancing all the way back in the command hill. Like a freight train run off the rails, the Immortals smashed into a wall, paused momentarily, then punched right through it. The weaker demons were reduced to a fine mist as Leroy and her sisters perfectly executed their final surge, combining their dash and charge skills in one ecstatic surge. With the force of an explosion harnessed in insect form, they ran straight through their foes before collapsing in a tangled heap on the other side.
Right yourselves! It's not over yet!
Amongst the twisted piles of wrecked buildings and tortured armor, Leroy and her sisters began the desperate fight to break free. Several of them were injured, some limbs had been shattered at the moment of contact or the collapse afterward, but all had to be put aside so they might finish the fight. For she was not wrong in her assessment, their leader. Though wounded, their two great foes had not fallen in the initial charge, and now the irate demon sought to exact terrible vengeance upon the armored insects. Now the battle began in earnest, and Leroy, the most battered of all the cadre, felt her veins blaze with joy as she stood, her helmet twisted across her head, before she once again raced forward to join the fray. Mandibles flashed and snapped as the two mighty demons roared, spitting fire, slicing with blades that split steel and carapace with equal ease. It was a desperate struggle, with neither side willing to give an inch, but it quickly became apparent that although their opponents numbered but 2, the 10 Immortals were outmatched. Even though they shrugged off the overwhelming pressure the demons brought to bear, despite causing significant injury in the initial charge, the ants lacked the speed and power necessary to contend with enemies such as these. The monsters danced amongst the ungainly armored figures. The monsters danced amongst the ungainly armoured figures, slashing with wild abandon as they sought to end the fight and complete their task. But Leroy and her sisters would not be brought low so easily. The more they were wounded, the more elated they became. As their HP dropped lower and lower, their hearts soared higher and higher. They fought more savagely, snapped their mandibles more viciously. Every moment that passed, the Immortals felt the fire in their veins grow even hotter, for they knew that which their opponents did not. Without conversing. Every moment that passed, the Immortals felt the fire in their veins grow even hotter, for they knew that which their opponents did not. Without conversing, without collaborating in any way, it so turned out that all 10 had taken the same evolution at Tier 6. The system had looked into their souls and seen they were worthy, and so had bestowed upon them a most powerful evolution, with an organ that would see to it that they accomplished their purpose. Even now, as the strength in her limbs was fading, Leroy could feel it within her, pulsing with power that only grew as she drew ever nearer to death. Only when she breathed her last would it unleash its full might and pull these foul creatures who sought to bring harm to their family into the afterlife. Only when she breathed her last would it unleash its full might and pull these foul creatures who sought to bring harm to their family into the afterlife along with them. As the battle raged on, the demons became increasingly frustrated. These horrendous ants simply refused to die. No matter the injury inflicted, they would come back, snapping their mandibles with ferocious energy that seemed... No matter the injury inflicted, they would come back, snapping their mandibles with ferocious energy that seemed impossible to snuff out. The two combatants were incredibly aware of the vast numbers of weaker ants who simply watched them from a safe distance, no doubt ready to leap into the fray the moment these armored beasts were defeated. The two demons decided simultaneously that they could no longer drag this fight out. They were weakened and injured as a result of this disaster and could not afford to let these undying insects exhaust them further. Acting as one, they marshaled their remaining strength and unleashed a devastating wave of power, a combination of fire and ash that swallowed everything around them in a 50-meter radius. When she saw that deadly conflagration ignite between the two demons, Leroy felt a wave of peace wash through her being, the likes of which she'd never felt before. With the last of their strength, the Immortals dove into the expanding sphere of destruction in order to bring themselves as close to their enemies as possible. Though they would die, they would succeed in defeating their enemies and thus live in glory. Though they would die, they would succeed in defeating their enemies and thus live in glory.
Farewell, sisters! Be at peace!
Leroy flung one last message to her sisters before each of them were consumed. When the blast finally cleared, every building within its radius had been reduced to a smouldering heap of slag. Drained, but victorious, the two demons surveyed what remained of their foes, little more than mounds of smouldering biomass and superheated metal. They had no time to celebrate, however. Already the surrounding insects were moving to confront them. Then something strange happened. An upswell of power they did not recognize began in each of their fallen opponents that grew so fast they had no time to react before it burst forth in radiant light. Each of the defeated ants became bathed in golden flames that grew in intensity until none could bear to look at them. There was no heat, only a pure light that could be seen kilometers away, piercing through the ash of the third stratum. The two demons were bewildered, but unharmed, and when the mysterious fire vanished, they despaired, as they found themselves once more staring at the 10 massive insects, completely unharmed, though without their armor. Each of the Immortals froze in pure confusion. They died. They were sure of it. What happened? As one, they threw open their status screens and inspected their new organ, demanding the system display its description.
Phoenix Fire Organ. Throughout the course of battle, this organ will consume the strength of its holder, empowering itself as they draw closer to death. When the host expires, it unleashes the contained energy in a wave of flame that will annihilate.
Each of the Immortals realized at the same moment that when evolving, they'd stopped reading at this point and confirmed the selection on the spot. Leroy hadn't even noticed there was more text.
Any injuries the host bears, bringing them back from the brink of death to live again.
That's just too funny.
The battlefield remained frozen for a long moment as each of the ants tried to process what they just learned.
Damn it!
Leroy screamed.
Oh, man. I fucking love this book.
Chapter 33. Assault on Orpule, Part 9. I watched in surprise as Sarah, of all the monsters on this ramp, sailed through the air and crash-landed on the plate, soon followed by Tiny. Luckily, the colony wasn't as distracted by their antics as I was, and utilised the distraction to extend a ramp in a rush, crashing into the side of the plate. Luckily, the colony wasn't as distracted by their antics as I was, and utilised the distraction to extend the ramp in a rush, crashing it into the side of the plate as the demons poured their fire into the two monsters. "Get in there!" I roar and dash straight across, activating my charge skill and ramming into the first demon I see. Behind me comes a literal wave of insects as the massed ranks of my siblings establish a beachhead in Orpule by simply shoving themselves bodily into the demons defending the city, pushing back the front ranks through sheer force. Our enemies aren't with their own strengths, and the battle escalates. Our enemies aren't without their own strengths, and the battle escalates as those demons more suited to close combat Our enemies aren't without their own strengths, and the battle escalates as those demons more suited to close combat find themselves with thousands of targets to unleash their craft upon. It's these kinds of situations in which domain magic is at its most... It's these kinds of situations in which domain magic is at its most potent, and I'm not the only one with this idea. An immediate war for control of the ambient mana erupts as mages on both sides exert their will. Small pockets of control form here and there, allowing domains to flicker to life. The demons clearly favour fire, or strange swirling flecks of darkness that I can only assume is ash, which makes sense since those are the dominant forms of mana in this stratum. The demons clearly favour fire, or strange swirling flecks of darkness that I can only assume is ash, which makes sense since those are the dominant forms of mana in this stratum. Wherever they touch, the ants are seared or worse before they can retreat back to safer areas. Drawing on some of the only mana I don't need to fight for control of, I reach deep within and pull out swathes of gravitational mana, swiftly forming it into a domain spell that spreads to crush the surrounding demons to the ground. At least, I would have liked it if they were smashed into the ground, but despite my best efforts, the gravity domain doesn't have the necessary oomph to overwhelm monsters of this stratum. Although, that's not to say it has no effect. The moment the added pressure bears down on them, the monsters around me visibly slow down as they exert far more force just to remain standing. Every time they extend a limb to fight, it becomes that much harder to hold into the air. Every time they extend a limb to fight, it becomes that much harder to hold it in the air. With the added condensing effect from my most recent mutation, the mana is already fairly thick before I even get my minds onto it, which saves time and effort, allowing me to give the mana a quick compression session before I flip into the domain. With the added condensing effect from my most recent mutation, the mana is already fairly thick before I even get my minds onto it, which saves time and effort, allowing me to give the mana a quick compression session before I flip it into the domain, increasing its effect beyond what was possible when I first learned this spell. The broader battle has become enormously hectic as more and more ants pile into the narrow landing strip we've secured, forcing their bodies into the fray and ramming into the demons to try and create more space for the ants behind them. It's numbers versus quality right now. Each individual ant is not nearly as powerful as the demons they face, but with enough bodies and minds packed into the area, it won't be possible for us to lose, which is exactly why the defenders of the city are working so hard to deny us any ground. Fancy tactics don't work so well when the crush is this intense, so no matter what either side said... Fancy tactics don't work so well when the crush is this intense, so no matter what either side intended, we've been drawn into an arm wrestle. In the thick of things, I take it upon myself to dive into the more powerful of the enemy domains, taking the damage on myself and countering with my own revolving shell of mana. Of course, behind me comes Tiny, Chrysalis and Invidia. The combined strength of us 4 Tier 6 monsters, with near-perfect cores and evolutions, is more than most Tier 6 demons can stand against, especially when we're backed by thousands of supporters.
Mandibles gnashing, minds spinning, I ram forward again and again, bashing my body into the wall of demon flesh and demanding they yield ground to me. In these cramped quarters, there is of course one monster who is able to reveal her strength perfectly. The constant din of Sarah's roar somehow keeps rising, growing louder and louder until it feels like every part of my body is vibrating with it. And then it just keeps going. Even the demons are intimidated by her. As her claws rip jagged red gouges out of the air and her jaws glow with terrible dark light. Fingers crossed she'll be able to come out of it all right this time. Fingers crossed she'll be able to come out of it all right this time, though I kind of get the feeling I might be missing a leg somewhere down the line. The brutal, face-to-face attrition continues without end, but the moment enough space has been established, the colony gains valuable reinforcements fresh off the ramp.
Hey there! It's good to finally be up here. I've been running circles for so long it feels like I might have gotten dizzy. Nice! Who needs the help first? Is it you? Or maybe I just help all of you at once? Let's go, everybody!
The blast of rapid-fire pheromones hits everyone on the plate as Vibrant and her crew make their presence known. With enough space to maneuver on the plate, they can use their speed to their advantage, cycle charging all over the place and causing headaches for the demons. Vibrant, in particular, is a menace. No sooner has she crashed into a particular pack of demons like a cannonball, moving so quickly she almost can't be seen, than she's righting herself and picking up speed again, heading for another area of the battlefield. At her mass and strength, each of those charges carries unbelievable force, like a car travelling 100 kilometres an hour. The impacts are absolutely shattering, but she rights herself each time in a matter of moments. There must be some mutations or organs at play there. I'll have to check her core again at some point. Faced with this relentless and unending grind, the demons cannot hold their ground and are constantly forced back. Progress might be slow, yet for every metre we gain, more ants are able to force themselves onto the platform and shove harder, whereas the surface area of the creatures against us just keeps getting larger, giving us more space to push. Pretty soon, the fire raining down on the ramp itself has dwindled to nothing, and the mages are engaged in a constant back and forth right over our heads. Things are looking good for the colony, but I can't help but worry. Where's Brixen and the other Tier 7s? They have to be around here somewhere. But wherever they are, they haven't deigned to reveal themselves yet. All I can do is push until they are forced out into the open.
Another chapter!
I'm killing it today. Chapter 34. Assault on Orpule, Part 10. When the tide turns, it turns quickly. Sarah has taken immense damage with her reckless fighting style, but all that happens is she goes harder. With literally dozens of healers lined up behind her, it doesn't seem as though she's going to have any trouble maintaining her HP either, no matter how much pain the demons try to rain down on her. Unable to stand up in front of her, unable to bring her down, the line cracks as the enraged bear slashes and tears at everything she can reach. She really is a powerful creature, possibly the strongest I've ever seen from the first stratum, barring the big croc herself. The moment there's a hole in the line, the ants start to pour through it, wrapping around the demons on either side with expert precision. Sarah, of course, is rather oblivious to the trouble and simply rushes on, trying to catch the opponents who are now fleeing from her. With the battle on the verge of being won by the colony, there's little point in holding back anymore, and I reach out with my senses, trying to grasp hold of Brixen and her allies the moment they reveal themselves. Which turns out to be now. From high above, a dense sphere of mana forms. From high above, a dense sphere of mana forms, crushing in on itself until it glows bright in my mind like a star. Almost as soon as it appears, it begins to drop, rocketing toward the clustered ants on the edge of the plate. Aha! They wanted to annihilate us from above as we cramped. They wanted to annihilate us from above as we were cramped and vulnerable. If only we hadn't been able to anticipate such an obvious move. Shields up! Shields up! Comes the call that rattles the antennae of every ant in the city. Dozens of mages leap to the task of weaving barriers above, whilst they simultaneously reach out to try and snuff the incoming ball of condensed mana. Each of my mind constructs is bent to the task, having dropped the domain the moment it wasn't needed, spinning shields and tearing chunks out of the spell above us with frenetic energy. I can feel so many minds around me doing the same thing, including Invidia and Owl, which leads me to feel confident that we'll be able to deflect this spell no problem. Except that doesn't appear to be the case. Barrier after barrier gets thrown up, and mana is stripped from the giant ball of flame at an accelerating pace as it descends toward us. Yet there are powerful minds still pumping the spell with mana, weaving vast amounts of fire mana every second. How is this possible? Are they literally up there riding the damn fireball down to us? Because that would be metal as all heck! No, don't think about that. I can't allow my siblings to be roasted. We need victory here! I'm already working as hard as I can, and so is everyone else, but we won't be able to dissipate the spell before it reaches us, not even close. Which means the barriers would need to hold, which I'm not sure they will. If nothing is done, then a lot of my family members are going to get snuffed out right here. I can't allow that! But what to do? There's little time until we've... There's little time until we're all bathed in this dark fire, perhaps 10 seconds at best. Not enough time to whip together a gravity bomb, not enough time to try and climb up there and attack the demons responsible for the spell directly. Perhaps Vibrance could... No, she would need to run to the pillar, climb up it, and then jump off. That's too much even for her. I could reach out to Owl, but the fiery eyeball is already throwing all he has into defense, which is rather a lot, by the by. He's putting more shields in place than 10 of me could. That doesn't leave many options. My main mind spins as the flames grow larger in my vision. I can sense the demons now, riding atop the fireball. I can even feel their gravitational fields, weak as they are. With the spell between us, I don't see how I can possibly get to them in time. Master! A voice rings in my mind. Chrysalis? Run through! She urges me, and I spin in confusion. Then I notice what the heck she's talking about. Right behind me, my most horrific helper has poured all of her shadow mana into a black void on the ground, as is currently trying to pull me toward it with her tentacles. Okay, I think he means it's. Right behind me, Right behind me, my most horrific helper has poured all of her shadow mana into a black void on the ground as it's currently trying to pull me toward it with her tentacles. There's a second where I wonder if she's trying to save my life by helping me escape. But I don't think so. Chrysalis has grown protective of the colony over our time together, almost as much as me, so I doubt she'd give up on all of the ants here. Chrysalis has grown protective of the colony over our time together, almost as much as me, so I doubt she'd give up on all of the ants here. Deciding to trust in my friend, I throw myself into the darkness. For a disorienting moment, I'm absorbed in a reel of perfect shadow before being spat back out again. And I'm falling. Where the heck did she send me? What shadow did she use as an exit? It takes a frantic second for me to get my bearings, and when I realise where I am, and can't help but unleash an... It's probably I. Damn it. I hate dealing with fucking typos. And when I realise where I am, I can't help but unleash an evil chuckle. Chrysalis, you genius! With a giant fireball being formed by the tier 7s above it, where would a shadow be cast? Why, above them, of course! Right beneath me are 3 powerful demons, including Brixen, each of them focused downward on the dread ball of doom they have created. Right beneath me are 3 powerful demons, including Brixen, each of them focused downward on the dread ball of doom they have created. It must have cost Chrysalis just about everything she had in her to create a portal of this kind of distance, including almost every drop of mana inside her core. I have an idea what her limits are, and moving something like me this far is something I assumed was far beyond her. Transporting her own shadow limbs about the place using her shadow magic is one thing. A humongous ant is quite another. I can't let this opportunity go to waste. With only a few seconds left before the spell hits the ground, I need to do everything I can to stop them from reinforcing as soon as possible. But what kind of mischief can I get up to in just a few seconds?
Yeah, Runt of Rin. Just bought my ticket for the con. Of course you did. Don't forget, everybody, go buy tickets to LitRPG Con. That's at litrpgcon.com. And also don't forget to go get The Grinding by Matt Dinneman. It's on soundbooth.app. It is exclusive there. You can't get it on Audible. It's me narrating. It's Annie featured as the female cast, and it's a great production. I can't wait to see what other people have to say about it. There's only 4 reviews on it so far, but it's only been the weekend. I'd love it if anybody who's here who has already listened to it would share it with other people, convince others that they need to check it out, and leave reviews yourselves.
Chapter 35. Assault on Orpule, Part 11.
All of the power in this world flows from the dungeon. Cores are its greatest wealth, experience its greatest power. For this reason, one might think the bulk of the population would dwell within the dungeon itself, pursuing all that Pangera has to offer its people. But this is far from the truth. In reality, the majority of the citizens of this world live on the surface, leading much more mundane lives under the sky, farming, fighting the weak monsters found there, trading and traveling. Why is this the case?
Numerous factors come to bear, and it can be difficult to determine which are the most impactful. The dungeon is certainly more dangerous to live in than on the surface. Of that there can be no question. Seeking out even more extreme risks in order to elevate oneself to the peak of humanity is a powerful lure to some, not so much for others. Many are poorly disposed toward violence in the first place, content to create instead. Without such individuals, society could not push itself forward. There are other considerations also. For over 1,000 years, the dungeon has been plumbed by the surface empires, and the citizenry have been encouraged to explore its depths. For over 1,000 years, the dungeon has been plumbed by the surface empires, and the citizenry have been encouraged to explore its depths. But for most who are born on the surface, life within the dungeon is simply too alien, too strange. No sky, no air, the constant risk of attack, and the ever-present threat of a wave. These factors combine to put a great deal of stress on any individual who lives within the dungeon. Perhaps often overlooked is the issue of mana saturation. It isn't known why some individuals are more receptive to mana than others, but it is a recognized phenomenon. Some people are simply better suited to absorbing this form of energy than others, which means they have an enormous advantage when it comes to securing a life for themselves below the ground. An entirely different case are those born in the dungeon, with their own set of advantages and disadvantages that will be discussed in a further lecture. Excerpt from Introduction to Adaptation and Societal Groupings, Above and Below, the ancient lecture series from Magnifico the Wise. Falling hundreds of meters with a group of Tier 7 demons and their giant, dark-tinted fireball of doom wasn't exactly part of my plan for the day. But here we are, and I need to make the best of it, and fast! Without enough time to think, I react instinctively and implement my first impulse, which is to reach the demons in any way that I can. Gravity mana floods my mandibles, and I reach out to the 3 demons, grabbing them with an almighty yoink! The strain on my mana is evident. Even if these 3 aren't exactly packing heat in the mass department, they aren't slouches. For whatever reason, likely the fact their attention is so heavily focused elsewhere, they seem unable to resist the energy taking hold of them and reversing the direction of their fall. The 3 mighty Tier 7 demons suddenly stop falling, stand still for a moment, and then reverse direction, lifting through the air towards me. Considering the shock of it, they react with incredible decisiveness, turning to lash out at whoever dared to attach this foreign mana to them. Before I can so much as introduce myself, I'm bombarded by a series of spells that burn and damage my carapace. Thankfully, the powerful demons didn't have much time to put a lot of juice into this effort, or I might have been obliterated on the spot. Instead, I merely endure a solid roasting before I cut the connection between us and defend myself, allowing them to begin falling again, except this time they are above me, and way too far from their explosive magic to keep assisting it. As I freefall, I can already feel the spell diminishing in size as the colony rips into it without the demons able to compensate for the loss. Now I have another issue, namely that I'm currently above this veritable bomb, and I'll be caught completely in the blast if I don't do something. Damn it! I knew I'd regret not getting wings at some point, and here it is! Seriously, who wouldn't want to be able to fly, Anthony, you moron? All right then, what can I do? Think. With precious seconds left before I splatter against the shields of my own allies and then promptly get roasted alive, I do what I can with my available resources. Working at the speed of thought, my brains whip up all the force mana I can muster, which I immediately spin into a series of condensed bolts. All I can think of is trying to move my position, and the only way I can think to do that in mid-air is by using the kinetic energy generated by force magic.
Manipulating the spells outside my body is difficult and takes precious time, but I gather the 6 bolts I've been able to create on my left side and let 'em rip at the same moment. My force magic still isn't that strong, but since I'm free-falling without any means to brace myself, the magic knocks me to the right as all of the spells slam into my carapace at the same moment. Thrown violently off course, I tumble away before an enormously dense surge of energy registers on my antennae.
Almost.
Thrown violently off course, I tumble away before an enormously dense surge of energy registers on my antennae, followed by a blinding flash of light. Crack-oom! Holy moly! That was lightning magic! Above me, I see the enraged and twisted face of Brixen as her spell goes wide due to my last-second manoeuvre. Yikes! I'd almost forgotten about them. I was so worried about falling. Speaking of which, I'm still falling! I seriously hope that terminal velocity is not a literal term! My diversion is enough to send me sailing to the side of the many-layered barrier the colony has erected, as well as the impact zone of the doom fire the demons created, just not by a whole lot. I likely won't be able to escape the fallout of the fireball unscathed, but at least I'm not going to be dropping flat into the middle of it. As the ground rushes towards me, I once again think that being able to close your eyes isn't such a bad thing sometimes. Brace for impact! I extend my legs out in the hopes of sacrificing them to absorb some of the impact. And spare my insides from the pain that's coming, when at the last second, a forest of tentacles explodes upward, extending straight for me. Chrysalis! Chapter 36, Assault on Orpule, Part 12. Thank goodness for amorphous blobs of terror. The tentacles twist through the air beneath me, creating a dense noodle stack that I plunge into like a boulder that fell off a cliff. Everything melds into a blur as I plummet the last 50 meters, and then bang! Oof! In an organ-rattling collision, I smack into the hard stone of the plate with nothing but the tentacles of Chrysalis to cushion my fall. In an organ-rattling collision, I smack into the hard stone of the plate with nothing but the tentacles of Chrysalis to cushion my fall. Predictably, my legs fold like a house of cards before my carapace is rocked by the impact and my head starts spinning. Yikes. Not a fan of that. Thanks, Chrysalis. You're a lifesaver. I almost didn't make it in time. But you did. That's all that matters. I trigger my healing gland and sigh in relief as the cooling fluid rushes through my... throughout my body, mending everything that was damaged in the fall and beginning the process of once again restoring my legs to full usefulness. Luckily, they haven't been ripped off this time, merely shattered in several places, so I should be good to go before too much time has passed. Boom! I must have been falling slightly faster than the spell, since at this moment a cataclysmic detonation resounds from the side. My antennae scream of danger, and I use my mandibles to sweep as much of Chrysalis behind me as I can, whilst my brains throw out the fastest barriers I'm capable of. They're flimsy as heck, but the best I can do on such short notice, and certainly better than nothing. Thank goodness I already triggered my healing gland. The heat is immense as the fireball unleashes its remaining payload of doom, except there is more at play than The heat is immense as the fireball unleashes its remaining payload of doom, except there is more at play than pure fire magic. The spell had been miscoloured, flecked with darkness where one would expect fire mana to be bright, and I can feel the difference now as the flames eat into my carapace even as it burns me. This must be a combination of ash and fire magic, putting the two most prominent elements of this stratum together into one horrific concentration of death. How nasty! My HP drops steadily as the fire rages, and I find myself fighting on two fronts. On one side, I'm trying to utilise my magic to hold off the worst effects of the spell by eating into the mana and countering with renewed barriers once my old ones are shattered, whilst at the same time I fight against Chrysalis as she tries to wrap her limbs around to protect me.
Damn it, Chrysalis! You're weak to mana like this! You'll just melt in an instant! Stay put!
I can help protect you! Let me go!
Absolutely not! Just sit still, will you?
Never!
I'm ordering you!
In the face of a direct command, there's nothing Chrysalis can do In the face of a direct command, there's nothing Chrysalis can do, though even then I see her limbs shivering as she tries with all her being to force herself to disobey my instruction. My heart clenches in my chest in the face of her devotion, and I draw her ever closer to shield her from damage.
You just saved me! Now it's my turn to save you!
I tell her firmly, even as she refuses to yield in her attempts. By the time the detonation is finished, the area around me is a smouldering ruin, and I am not. By the time the detonation is finished, the area around me is a smouldering ruin, and I am in. By the time the detonation is finished, the area around me is a smouldering ruin, and I am in a not insignificant amount of pain. Checking my HP bar, that I was too scared to look at prior to this point, I see that everything I just endured, I've been chunked down to just under half of my pool. Considering regeneration fluid was making its way throughout my body throughout the explosion, it's a shocking amount of damage to remain. The carapace on my back has almost entirely been eaten away, and what's more, it is very slow to regenerate. Perhaps a lingering effect of ash mana? I don't know enough about the stuff to say for sure, but I have a sneaking suspicion my hunch is correct. I know that I'm all right, but what about the colony? Taking in the sight as my eyes gradually lose the glare, I can see that my siblings have not escaped unscathed. Closer to the centre of the gathered ants, they were safer, having the full benefit of the shields woven overhead, but near the outer edge of that circle, things look much more grim. Already the healers are picking their way over the wounded, administering desperately needed first aid. Every ant who can be saved will be saved, of that I have no doubt, but the fires of vengeance have been lit in me now. No chance I let them get away unscathed for this. My sentiment is also echoed by the colony, who bristle with outrage and determination. The ant tide will not be denied. Cannot be denied. My mind constructs spin furiously, bringing yet another mana type to the fore, namely healing magic, to get me back on my feet again. Far above our heads, the magic-oriented Tier 7 demons that Brixen reserved to defend her seat of power float, looking down on the remnants of their failed strategy. Doubtless, they hoped to triumph here in one fell swoop. But it wasn't to be. I'm not sure what their next play will be, but I have the utmost confidence we shall sweep that aside also.
Come down here!
I roar, using my pheromones and waggling my broken legs at them. I'll bite your ankles off!
In the distance, I can still hear Sarah's endless bellow. She must still be tearing through Orpule on a rage. Fuck. Hate that shit. In the distance, I can still hear Sarah's endless bellow. She must still be tearing through Orpule on a rage-drunk rampage, followed by a squad of ants who are going to try their level best to keep her from wrecking the entire place. I feel sorry for any demon that gets in her way at this point. Once she gets wound up, she is absurdly hard to stop. Speaking of squads following me around...
Protect Ant! You lot still alive?
A short pause.
Yes? Please don't jump into shadow portals that we can't follow you through in future.
Comes a clipped reply from the thin air. That's a relief. I was worried they'd gotten themselves baked in the blast.
All right then. It's time to bring these demons down and show them what's what. Can someone go and get Tiny for me? I'm going to need him for this.
Are you talking to us?
Protect Ant asks, again not revealing herself.
Of course! Who else is here to smell these pheromones?
Right.
I turn my mind to Chrysalis and connect with her.
How's things, Chrysalis? How's things, Chrysalis? Did you pull through all right?
She was badly singed on the extremities, and I don't doubt she lost a lot of her flesh in the blast, especially before I ordered her to pull back.
You should have let me protect you,
she mumbles in my mind. I shake my head.
No chance. You aren't allowed to die before me. That's an order.
She falls silent, a helpless pile of unshapen shadow goo on the ground beside me. I feel a little bad about ordering her like that. I hate restricting them, but I feel this one with all of my heart. None of them are allowed to die before me.
Nice stretch.
Chapter 37. Assault on Orpule. Finale. With the demons high overhead, the only way the colony could reach them was to unleash their best spells and acid. With the demons high overhead, the only way the colony could reach them was to unleash their best spells and acid blasts, doing everything possible to force the demons down, or at least drain them of my... With the demons high overhead, the only way the colony could reach them was to unleash their best spells and acid blasts, doing everything possible to force the demons down, or at least drain them of mana so they were no longer a threat. As I watch, it appears to be working. The demons use shields to block attacks as they move their stupid discs around, dodging the worst of the largely untargeted barrage, but there's just so much stuff being thrown at them they can't possibly dodge it all. As I lay here healing, I do my part. As I lay here healing, I do my part to contribute to the struggle, hurling gravity bolts by the dozen at the demons, hoping to snag them and force them to come down to our level. At the very least, it'll become harder for them to keep themselves in the air if they get heavier. Fairly soon, Tiny returns to my side, and I don't waste any time repeating the order that I gave. Fairly soon, Tiny returns to my side, and I don't waste any time repeating the order that I gave to Chrysalis to him as well. When Invidia pops up, worn out from helping my siblings shield themselves, I tell him too. You are not allowed to die before me. That's an order. Invidia doesn't react outside of a slow blink, and Tiny just looks confused. But that's fine. As long as I've given them the order, they'll have to obey it. All right then, Tiny. We have an issue that you can help me with. All right then, Tiny. We have an issue that you can help me with. Invidia, try and help heal Chrysalis up and grab her some biomass. Actually, hold on. Someone go and get Chrysalis biomass! She needs to regenerate!
Is that...
Yes, I'm talking to you, Protectant! Get it done! I'm hardly going to be going anywhere right now, am I? I waggle my broken legs in the air for emphasis. A few moments later, I'm confident they are gone. All right then, here's the deal. I'm going to lighten myself, and Tiny is going to throw me into the air so I can bring the demons down to ground level. Make sense? Master, no! For all we know, they are just holding their ground up there until they charge up another doom ball and obliterate this entire plate. They were surely going to blow up half of it with the last one. I can't reach them from down here, but from up there, I can. How are you going to land? I can't catch you again, and you're already injured, Chrysalis protests vehemently. Bit of food into you, and you'll be back to catching ants in no time, I reassure her. Besides, we have more help this time. Invidia can slow me down with barriers, and Tiny can catch me in his big beefy arms, right? Tiny nods seriously and flexes. Invidia blinks once. See? No problem, I'll be fine. Chrysalis is obviously not convinced, but I need to do something to bring this situation to a swift resolution. The more time passes, the more advantageous this will be for the demons as they recover their energy and possibly wind up for another strike. Working fast, I take hold of my gravity mana with my hands. Inverting spell patterns is a tricky business, but there are a few cases where I know how to get it to work, and the gravity bolt is one of them. I blast myself with the modified spell over and over again and notice with surprise how my antennae can feel the gravitational field around my body beginning to shift. This gives me rather precise control over how much of my mana I need to use. After all, I still need to fall. If I get it wrong and start floating, I'll be in serious trouble. I'd rather not spend too much time drifting through the air in front of Brixen and her crew if I can help it. Once I get the balance right, I turn to Tiny and give him a nod. With a broad grin, the giant ape slaps his massive hands against his chest to warm himself up before lifting me with a two-handed grip. I can tell from the look on his face that I'm lighter than he expected, but it's still awkward to get a decent grip on me. All right then, Tiny. I want you to fling me straight up as hard as you can. Got it? Don't forget to catch me when I come down. And by that delightful blank stare, he's already forgotten. Okay! Now! With a tremendous rush of force, Tiny leans back, then throws both his hands up, propelling me straight up into the air like an insectile missile. With a tremendous rush of force, Tiny leans back, then throws both his hands up, propelling me straight up into the air like an insectile missile. The force of the air pressure flattens my antennae back to my head, and my eyes blur. Beneath me, the plate plummets away, becoming uncomfortably small as I look down on the battle still raging there. Despite the insanity, my minds are working overtime, preparing the barrage of spells I'll unleash the moment I reach the apex of my flight. Holy moly, I'm going to come down hard. I hope those two are up to the task. Probably the only entity more surprised than me to see a giant ant rocketing up above the plate is Brixen. Her face is a twisted mask of pure rage as I reappear before her in the air once again. It's tempting to reach out with my mind and say something pithy, but I suspect she might use that link to obliterate my consciousness. Resisting the urge, I unleash a barrage of magic directly into the faces of the demons before they have a chance to act. Condensed gravity bolts fly out with pinpoint accuracy at the same moment of a domain. Condensed gravity bolts fly out with pinpoint accuracy at the same moment a domain Condensed gravity bolts fly out with pinpoint accuracy at the same moment a domain snaps into existence, encompassing all three of the Tier 7 demons. Down we go! No. Down we go! Taken by surprise, they fail to dodge the initial barrage, and once the domain expands to encompass them, they find themselves suddenly so much heavier than they were a moment ago. I can practically feel the confusion that rolls through them as they encounter gravity magic for likely the first time. The bolts that hit them did no damage, but then there's this other strange effect. Do they defend themselves or not? Their hesitation allows me to land a few more bolts before my upward momentum spends itself completely and I start to accelerate faster and faster toward the ground. With focused rage, Brixen extends an arm toward me that erupts in a jet of ashen fire that licks against my left side carapace. One more time. With focused rage, Brixen extends an arm towards me that erupts in a jet of ashen fire that licks against my left side carapace. Ouch! Thank goodness for the vestibule. I trigger my healing gland again as I continue to blast out gravity bolts, holding on to the domain as long as possible to apply as much pulling force to them as I can. The moment I drop out of range of Brixen's flamethrower, the other two join the party, flinging a horrendous array of spells at me, which I find myself in a poor position to dodge. So I don't. I once again pump my mandibles full of gravity mana, exhausting my reserves in the process, reach out to the three figures, and yoink! Already so much heavier than they had been mere moments ago, the additional force of the mandibles pulling them has a much larger effect that staggers the powerful Tier 7s atop their discs. I manage to pull them down. Not by much, not nearly all the way to the ground, but as I sail out of their reach, peppered by the few spells that manage to find my falling self, I can tell I've done enough. How do I know? Because of the absolute torrent of firepower unleashed by the colony that sails past me. Suddenly, the sky is alight with fire and acid that engulfs the demons above a never-ending stream of death that rises from over 10,000 mightily ticked-off ants far below. I'm just going to keep going, aren't I? I'm going to get some more water real quick.
Chapter 38. Landing is the best part. Watching Brixton and her two chumps being bathed in the combined firepower of my siblings is certainly entertaining, almost entertaining enough to make me forget that I'm about to land in a world of hurt. Luckily, I come back to myself fast enough to roll over and look down at my waiting pets. To my joy, and somewhat to my surprise, Tiny is looking up at me, arms out and face creased with concentration as he repositions himself to attempt the catch. Please don't stuff this up, big guy. I do not want to end my second life scattered across the rock like an ant that got stepped on. I'm too young and certainly too shiny to go out like that. To my relief, Invidia's on the ball. The brainy demon spins together a series of shields, each one layered atop the other with a The brainy demon spins together a series of shields, each one layered atop the other with a meter between. I can even appreciate that he's managed to adjust the strength of each shield, so I'll hit the weaker ones first before smacking into something stronger, thus bleeding off a little more speed each time. The ability of that eyeball to do this at the speed he did it, absolutely astonishing. Just another reminder that the distance between me and a truly dedicated spell-slinging monster is rather wide. Thanks to my efforts with gravity mana, I don't weigh half as much as I normally would, and I have far less force. Even so, I crash through the first of Invidia's shields without even feeling them, and the following ones begin to get harder and harder, drawing out a wince of pain with every smack. To minimise potential injury, I roll onto my uninjured side and allow the carapace there to take the force, the inner carapace plating doing a lot of work to disperse the impact. Despite all that, my HP still takes a hit, much like my insides, as I effectively run into wall after wall. After a dozen of these, the ground looms large in my sight, and so too does the hairy chest of Tiny, which I crash land into, sending the two of us tumbling over the stone. When we finally come to a halt, I've rolled out of the big ape's grip and come to a stop a few meters away. Tiny has a wide grin on his face and gives me a bold thumbs up, looking so pleased that it makes... Tiny has a wide grin on his face and gives me a bold thumbs up, looking so pleased that it takes me a moment to realise his other arm is hanging uselessly by his side. Why are you looking so happy when your arm is broken? With a sigh, I spin together some more healing mana and apply it to the big ape. It'll be enough to get him through the short term and kickstart the healing process. I'm not nearly as good a medic as someone more dedicated to the art. Thanks, Tiny. And thank you, Invidia. You both did great. Looks like we were successful. Above our heads, the air is still packed full of explosions, acid, fire, ice, bursts of steam, and all sorts of things as the irate colony continues to unleash their wrath. To be honest, I don't think Brixton is even there anymore. She probably managed to lift herself above it all. She probably managed to lift herself above it all. She probably managed to lift herself above it all a little while back, but just being exposed to that barrage for a second or two is going to strip the hide off even a tier 7. In other words, I doubt she's dead, but wherever she is up there, she's not doing so hot. Which is fine by me. I need a little time to recover. Becoming Anthony's flying circus not only... Becoming Anthony's flying circus not once but twice in a day is quite the unexpected event, one I'm in no rush to repeat. Around me, the ants are beginning to move on from their unending assault on the air above to... Around me, the ants are beginning to move on from their unending assault on the air above. Around me, the ants are beginning to move on from their unending assault on the air above to conquering the city more generally. As the moments tick by, more and more of my siblings stop slinging their anger and ordnance upward and begin to file into Orpule. Move
Move in your teams! Follow the trails! Move quickly to secure your checkpoints! And somebody tell Vibrant to slow down!
A blast of pheromones billows out from nearby, stinging my antennae with their sharpness. A few moments later, the source becomes apparent as Advent walks toward me, her antennae still swinging wildly as she blasts out orders to the surrounding ants.
I thought Victor was in charge here, I say.
She's further back. We didn't want to risk exposing our top generals to attack when we arrived on the plate. She should be up here before too long, so long as nothing else goes wrong. I take it that was you I saw soaring through the air?
I think you're imagining things.
Right. Just another story to add to the legend of the eldest, eh?
What's that?
Nothing. Are you going to be in any state to move any time soon?
I flex my legs a little.
Give it a few minutes and I'll be able to move about. Won't be all that fast, but I'll be mobile.
That might have to do. We haven't finished dealing with Brixen yet. I believe she's been weakened, along with the 2 Tier 7 demons who are supporting her, but they aren't dead, not by a long shot. Focusing upward, I can see that some of the colony is still hurling spells into the air. Visibility is beginning to return, and so far, the ruler of Orpule is nowhere to be seen. Former ruler at this point, I suppose. The colony has flooded into the city, and Vibrant has been running rampant in there, along with Sarah, for some time. If there's much resistance left, it'll be in the plates beneath us, which we haven't invaded yet. If Brixen wants to take this place back, she's going to have to nuke the thing from orbit. There's no getting rid of us now.
Do you still think our plan has a chance to work?
I ask Advent. The steady soldier flicks her antennae.
To be honest, I think the chance of it succeeding has improved rather... than gone down. If anyone can pull it off, it's going to be you.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, I responded dryly. I respond dryly.
All I have to do is face down 3 Tier 7 demons. Nothing at all.
She shrugs her antennae.
It's not like you'll do it alone. There are thousands of us here. Compared to that, what do they have?
Oh boy, we're going to find out, aren't we? Okay, guys, I think I'm going to do one more chapter. And then, yeah, just a little bit past 3 o'clock, we'll be finishing up. I'm pretty hungry. I haven't had anything to eat today. But it would be nice to get, like, just a little bit further into the set so that tomorrow we can start a new one. Ow. Ow. All right. Good thing this is the last chapter. Hey, what's up, Jay Nelly? Thanks for coming. All right.
Chapter 39.
Less than you expect, but more than you think.
How does one tier of monster stack up against another? It's a difficult question to answer, contrary to the expectations of many. It's a difficult question to answer, contrary to the expectations of many. Bigger numbers are better, surely, is a sentiment I have heard repeated far too often, and from those who should know better. It's amazing how easily you can find idiots, no matter the field. Walk into the highest centres of learning in all of Pangera, and I assure you there will be a blithering idiot occupying one of their most prestigious seats. This is why I seldom trusted any members of the Shapers' Circle who weren't prepared to go out in the field. This is why I seldom trusted any members of the Shapers' Circle who weren't prepared to go out into the field and put their knowledge to the test. Just because you trust in the theory doesn't mean you shouldn't go and put that faith to the test. That was my approach, and though my fellow mages were proven correct 99 times out of 100, I learned so much from that one nugget that my entire perspective was able to hinge around it. So, a Tier 5 monster fights against a Tier 6. Who wins? Well, that depends on so many factors that the question almost has no meaning. Perhaps the most important factor, the one with the greatest influence over the result, is the respective strength of the cores. A monster from the second stratum can still defeat one from the fourth, even overcoming the tier gap, if it has a large advantage in core strength. The strength of the core reflects not only how much mana the monster... The strength of the core reflects not only how much mana the monster has accessed. The strength of the core reflects not only how much mana the monster has access to for spell crafting, or how much evolutionary energy was available to that monster. Although both of those are massively important, it also speaks to how adapted to mana the monster's body is. The core is not just a storage container after all, it's so much more than that, and the effect it has within the body of a dungeon creature is immense. Monsters are made from mana. It flows through them, strengthens them, molds them. A monster who has more mana flowing through them has numerous advantages compared to one who is more deprived. And that is just one consideration. The rest could fill a book in the telling. The rest could fill a book in the telling.
Excerpt from Raising Monsters by Granin Lazarus.
For the next hour, the advance of the colony throughout the Demon City continues to be unstoppable. More troops charge up the ramp and pour into Orpule, securing locations, moving down onto the second plate, subduing the local population. It was a huge concern of ours that there might be a non-demonic presence here, one that might object to our management, or indeed our existence, but thankfully that hasn't turned out to be the case. At least, not according to the reports I get whilst sitting and waiting. At least, not according to the reports I get whilst sitting and waiting. My legs have well and truly healed enough for me to be up and moving around, but I've decided waiting here, with my pets by my side, will be the best course of action for the moment. Already, the carvers have begun to move in and redecorate the place, repairing the damage and securing ground around the pillar for the construction of a command nest from which the colony can safely occupy the city. When we take over a place, we really don't muck around. The previous rulers aren't even dead, and already we're paving over their castle and building our own over the rubble. If we weren't insects, it might be considered rude. The ramp itself will have to be taken apart rather soon. Not something anyone is looking forward to, I wager. Just looking at the thing is absolutely gobsmacking. Such a construction on Earth would have taken months, even when taking into account modern equipment. The sheer ludicrous mass of the thing, all that stone. My mind boggles, and now it all needs to be knocked down. It isn't as if we can just leave a walkway up to a city we control. That throws away the best defensive advantage that the demon plates have. I watch all of this activity happen around me, frankly a little bored, while I wait for Brixen and her... I watch all of this activity happen around me, frankly a little bored, while I wait for Brixen and her allies to appear. Perhaps I should have a little more tension about it, but I just can't summon the adrenaline. Perhaps I should have a little more tension about it, but I just can't summon the adrenaline. After flying through the air twice during the battle, I feel as if I've bungee jumped from a helicopter that is itself attached to a bungee cord hooked to a rocket. I've been thrilled out. No excitement left. Which is why I'm able to act so casual when the trio do finally make their appearance. They come much as I expected, on a disc they likely used to escape from the city whilst we were They come much as I expected, on a disc they likely used to escape from the city whilst we were still busy They come much as I expected, on a disc they likely used to escape from the city whilst we were still busy hurling literally tens of thousands of MP worth of magic at the sky. They approach cautiously, though not fearfully, as indeed, by the customs of their people, they have no need to be. We learned a great deal from Owl when it came to demon wars and how oddly ritualistic and formal they are. The whole thing is odd to me. The whole thing is odd to me. That the one type of monster I would expect to be ripping each other apart the most is the one with the most rules when it comes to conflict. Supposedly, it has to be this way, since, once upon a time, shredding each other for any reason at all was exactly what they did. Just imagining the more advanced demons engaged in the same behaviour as their larval kin all over the stratum is enough to give me the willies. As the three powerful demons approach on their disc, I begin to feel a little trepidation. The three of them combined could quite easily blast me out of existence if they worked together. "You sure they aren't going to attack me?" I ask Owl as the fiery eye floats nearby.
They will not. Confident. A formal war is not a fight to the death. There are separate rules for those.
Because of course there are. Because of course there are. I draw some comfort from the knowledge I gain through the vestibule. As the demons draw closer, the colony has naturally taken note and mustered a sizable force to respond to the first sign of aggression. Thousands of ants are converging on my position whilst trying not to be too obvious about it. While they are still some distance away, I feel a powerful mind reach out and connect to mine.
I have received word that my assault on Rockloo has failed. Since Orpule has also fallen into your hands, I can only declare that I have lost the war and my territory is forfeit.
And it burns her too. Brixen is not the sort of demon who is happy to lose. In fact, her obsession is entirely based around conquest and expansion. The colony is powerful. I shrug my antennae. Far more so than you demons seem prepared to give us credit for. This will not be our last victory in the third stratum, far from it. The former Lord of Orpule's eyes blaze with rage and hunger at my words, which is precisely what I wanted to see. That being the case, we find ourselves in need of a demon to partner with. One who would be willing to embark on assault after assault, leading demons to fight by our side and hoping That being the case, we find ourselves in need of a demon to partner with. One who would be willing to embark on assault after assault, leading demons to fight by our side and helping to administer to the cities that we conquer. As I understand it, most demon cities will not rest quietly without a demon ruler at the helm. Could you think of a potential city lord who would be willing to enter into a partnership of this type? Brixen positively burns with the strength of her obsession. Hook, line, and sinker.
All right, that's it, guys. I'm done for the day. Thank you one more time for coming and hanging out with me as I narrated more of Chrysalis 7. I will be back at it tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central. Watch out for notifications. Subscribe to this channel if you don't want to miss it. Like this video if you do. Like it, spread it around, and also don't forget the two things I've been talking about all day. LitRPG Con, litrpgcon.com, the very first convention dedicated to the genre of LitRPG, being put on by Soundbooth Theater. Matt Dinneman's there. I'm there. Pretty much every big LitRPG author you can think of is going to be there. Go to litrpgcon.com, look at the big-ass list. It's in July 18th through 20th in Denver, Colorado at the Grand Hyatt Hotel. And also, go to soundbooth.app. Pick up The Grinding by Matt Dinneman. It is a pure horror. It's not LitRPG at all, but it's really, really, really good. Matt Dinneman's not just a flash in the pan. DCC is not the only thing that he's written that's awesome. The Grinding is as well. This was written back in 2013, and we just now redid the audio and put it exclusively on the Soundbooth app. Soundbooth.app. Search for The Grinding. All right, guys, you have a good rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed yourselves while you were here. I'll be back at it 10 a.m. Central tomorrow. And yeah, that's it. See ya.